Hello and welcome to the Tattersalls Cheltenham Festival Preview. We are very excited to get stuck into previewing all the big races over the big 4 days at Cheltenham next week. There is loads to discuss, and on this preview show we've got loads of terrific content for you because we've got some very special guest interviews throughout the course of this preview evening, giving you some real in-depth insight into some of the main players running in the biggest races next week. And so stay tuned for those. Paul Nicholls, Anthony Bromley, just to name a few. So some big names coming your way. But two of the biggest names of the industry are on the panel with us today, and they are Jamie Codd and Richard Pugh. How are you, Jamie, to start with?
Good, yeah. I'm in good form, so looking forward to the preview.
Well, it's great to have Jamie Codd with us, and of course he's one legend of the jumping game, and many of you will know him, but many of you might not know quite as well my second panel guest, which is Richard Pugh, and he really is a legend of the game because what he doesn't know about jump racing simply is not worth knowing.
Very different Cheltenham for me this year. Usually you have to manage Jamie's emotions through Cheltenham. We stay in a house together every year, so I think it's an opportunity to really enjoy Cheltenham this year without the pressures of Jamie's pressures.
Great. Well, I'm glad that for some of us there really is a silver lining then, because like you say, this is a very different year and it has been a little bit of a turbulent run up to the festival this year, but that doesn't detract from the racing. So let's get stuck straight in, and where better place to start than, of course, the Supreme Hurdle. First race on the first day, and as always, it's served up a treat for us. And at the moment, Jamie, Appreciated is still the favourite for this race, 13-8 favourite, and he deserves to be there, but he's a horse who's surprised a few people in terms of the distance that he's ended up running over at the end of the season compared to where he started at the beginning of the year. Where are you going in this race? Are you taking on Appreciated?
No, I'm not going to take him on, really. I think his form has been rock solid. He started off maiden hurdle down in Cork and he got the job done there. I think they were more or less saying he was probably only about 80% when he went to Cork, and he's improved onto Leopardstown at Christmas and onto the Dublin Racing Festival. Jumping is good. He seems to have enough pace. You would think with his pedigree and the way he races, he might be better being stepped up and tripped in the future. But at the minute, the 2 mile around Cheltenham looks ideal. He has the course experience, of course, from the champion bumper last year. So he's going to be very, very hard to oppose.
Yeah, I think I'm with Appreciated too. I think Willie Mullins and Paul Townend will kick off the week with a winner, which is how they like to start the week. But it is a deep enough race, and you've got Metier in there, among others, and Soaring Glory as well. Plenty that you can make cases for. Richard, which way are you going here?
Yeah, look, Appreciated stands out on form, but 6-4 for me is a little bit short. As you said, there's depth in behind him. Metier, Harry Fry's horse, I think he picked him up from Andrew Slattery, who's produced so many Faugheen, Couldine, so many top-class horses. But without logic being on my side, because the rating doesn't help me here, Soaring Glory is a horse I've always liked. John Judd's got his team in top form with Cloth Cap the other day. John Judd Jr. is riding out of his skin. He was a gorgeous store. I saw him when Goldford produced him. A really nice individual. His last run, a 23 runner handicap. I just think Willie's line on Appreciated about being a little wary of 2 mile. When Willie Mullins speaks, I listen, and at 6-4, I think he's the probable winner, but at 6-4 he's too tight, so I'm going to go for Soaring Glory.
Like it. Soaring Glory. I'm a big Soaring Glory fan as well. Started out the season so well when, of course, beating Brave Man's Game, who we'll talk about later. So plenty of his form stacks up. He's currently roughly an 8-1 shot, and I like that a lot. I think on that then, if we're going Appreciated for Jamie and Soaring Glory for Richard, we can move on to the Arkle. Now, I'm a sucker for novice chasers. It's my category, and we are blessed this year that every novice chase category is just packed full of class. But this Arkle, Jamie, I think this is one of the races of the meeting if they all get there. Energumene, All Mankind and Shishkin, they all bring in completely different running styles from completely different yards. Which way are you falling here? And are you as excited about it as I clearly am?
Yeah, no, definitely. It's going to be a fantastic race. the novice, 2 mile novice speed around Cheltenham, jumping. It's going to be brilliant to see. And we have 3 very, very good horses here. And Energumene has been, I thought his performance in Leopardstown the last day was flawless. His jumping was top class, and he won very, very easily. So he obviously sets the standard for the Irish going there in this. All Mankind's run in the Triumph last year. The only thing I would say about All Mankind is maybe just the jumping on the jumping stakes. He's been quite good, but he's not a natural. If you're looking at him jumping, he's not a real natural. Whereas the likes of Energumene and Shishkin seem to have a little bit more natural jumping ability. But Shishkin has been a real superstar. Dermot and Virginia Considine had him as a pointer, and he's been a real star for them, and also when he's gone on to Nicky. And I'm going to sit back and look at it. I have a sneaky suspicion for Energumene, but Shishkin is a hell of a horse.
Can I just ask you from a jockey's perspective, how much of an issue, I mentioned before about their different running styles, it's likely that Shishkin is going to sit off the pace and creep into it, I would imagine. Meanwhile, you've got All Mankind up front and Energumene likely to be there as well. How much of a problem is All Mankind going to be to Energumene, and what happens there in terms of jockey tactics around 2 miles at Cheltenham?
It really does. It depends on how fast they go. Really, like obviously Paul Townend is going to be wary on Energumene to not cut his own throat with All Mankind. And I don't think Shishkin is going to drop in that far. I think Nico is going to want to get a good clear passage around. I'd say he's just going to follow those 2, and keep it as simple as he can, and deliver his challenge maybe after the back of the third last. So it just depends. Sometimes when you think there's going to be a lot of pace, maybe one of the horses or one of the jockeys is going to think that maybe they shouldn't take on the other horse, and maybe the horse might just get a freebie in front. So whether that'll be All Mankind or Energumene, you don't know. But I do think it'll be interesting to see what pace they go and whether it will be a real cutthroat gallop.
Fascinating indeed. Richard, which way are you falling here? Personally, for me, I'm going with Shishkin. I think he's one of the UK's best chances of the week. But where are you? Who are you siding with here?
The market is making Shishkin probably stronger than he deserves, and Energumene is the value. But I do think Shishkin will win on the basis that Energumene he's running around Gorn, Naas and Leopardstown, and that to me brings out the best in his jumping. He's a big striding, 6 fences down the back straight in Leopardstown. It's all wow. But Shishkin, for me, he's athletic, he's nimble, he's quick. If they get tight to the fence at the top of the hill, Energumene might be able to get out of that trouble. But I really believe that Shishkin can, and he got out of real trouble last year. I think proven form around the track. He's a high class horse, and I think Shishkin is the one to side with here.
Vote for Shishkin from Richard. And now it's time for our first interview, because Shishkin was sold at the Cheltenham December sale back in 2018 for £170,000 to none other than Anthony Bromley. And Richard caught up with Anthony earlier today.
Anthony Bromley, welcome to our Tattersalls Cheltenham Preview. And one team you're particularly involved with, obviously, is the Swade and Maneer team, and the green jacket is quite prominent at the festival next week. In no particular order, we might run through some of those in a sort of a quick-fire environment with a look towards the races that they're in. Beginning, as I say, in no particular order, Sandaroo, Martin Pipe, our county hurdle, around about a 20-1 shot, third at Leopardstown Dublin Racing Festival. Discuss.
He was third in Fred Winter last year, so a festival pace of a race is good. It was a breakneck speed at the Dublin Festival. He does do well off those sort of big field races. I'd say that he'd go in county hurdle, and I think he's got a little squeak because I don't think he's badly handicapped. He'll sneak into the weights, and he's already been placed at the Cheltenham Festival. So I'd say he's got a little outsider's chance.
Beginning with an each way 20-1 shot, I like it. The Caribbean Boy, Paddy Power Plate on Thursday, 10 or 12-1, Nicky Henderson.
Yeah, I don't think he wants really heavy ground. I know he won in it at Haydock last year, but he didn't seem to really bounce through it. At Sandown last time. Also, it was too short a race, 2 miles for him. I think he's in good shape, goes there with a good shout. I know Darrell's looking forward to riding him. 153, he's not thrown in at the weights, but he is potentially a better horse than that, but he hasn't quite shown that yet. So I think he could run well. Yeah.
Here's a horse could take us on a couple of different tangents. So Royal, 14-1 for the Champion Chase, 33-1 for the Champion Hurdle, trained by Alan King, and beat the Gold Cup fancy champ in the Game Spirit. Discuss.
Yeah, he's been a revelation this season. He had a little tickle to his soft palate at the end of the summer, and he did really well hurdling. But when he came up against the very top hurdlers, he was found wanting. So it was to go back chasing. Had a little blip at Kempton, very uncustomary because he's a great jumper, really. Likes good ground and bounced off it at Newbury. That was probably his Gold Cup win in the Game Spirit. Will go Champion Chase, and if it's dry, I think he's in there with a shout. I mean, 2 years ago he led at the last, and he only just got overhauled late on by Politolog and Altior, proper horses, and he's in the form of his life. I mean, he's been running as well as he's ever done this season. So it's obviously a really strong renewal with Chacun Pour Soi in there, but and you still got Politolog and Altior in there. But he doesn't owe us anything. He's won over £100,000 in prize money this season for the owners. And if it comes up soft, we'd take him out. But if it's good to soft, something like that, I think he'll give Darrell a real good spin.
And I can imagine your heart is obviously with Altior and the heart of a lot of racing people. Can your head see it happen?
Well, I think cheap pieces, which has been mooted, are going to be put on, and I think that would be a help for Nico in the sort of, in mid-race, if you know what I mean. And there's going to be furious old pace, and he could get detached, but I think that'll keep him. It's something different for the horse. Nicky's a master at getting him ready for a certain day in March at Cheltenham. You couldn't put it past him to pull it out of the bag.
I haven't been to as many Cheltenhams as you, but I can still see Sprinter Sacre walking up into the crowd, barely believing that he came back, and you just think it might be empty, but there'll be a feel of a roar if he does walk back in. So good luck with him. And just in the context of the Gold Cup, we'll touch on it here. Champ ran well behind So Royal, over 2 miles. How do you see the Cheltenham Gold Cup panning out?
Yeah, I don't want to be too negative on Champ, because immediately after Game Spirit, what a hell of a Gold Cup trial he'd run. But the more I've dwelt on it afterwards and thought about it, Champ used to be very free running horse. And I'm not sure getting him all stirred up to make all the running in a 2 mile chase was the right plan 3 weeks before the Gold Cup, when you're going to want to get this horse anchored again over 3 mile, 2.5. And I think their next problem will be to rein him back in the Gold Cup. And whilst it looked like a brilliant plan. And now I'm actually thinking, I don't know. Because as a youngster, Champ used to pull like hell. I mean, they took seasons to get him to restrain him. And I was thinking, is that the right plan 3 weeks before the Gold Cup? So I hope that they're all right with that. But for me, I don't see him winning it. I think that Album Photo wins the race. I really do. I think the horse I've bought that's in the race, I'm closest with, is Frodon. And I mean, again, that's a very emotional one, if that could do it. And he'll run a big race. He'll run a big race. But is he an out and out stayer? Probably not. And something like an Album Photo could reel him in. But it'll be a furious old pace up there. Native River won't get his own way with Frodon in it. And I don't know. It's an exciting race, and it's great to have it at the end of the week, and it's something to look forward to. It's a very competitive race. I think Album Photo wins it, with Frodon just fading into a place.
If Frodon is close and Altior wins, boy, we'll miss the crowd, but we'll be shouting home. Blue Lords, 12-1 for the Supreme for Willie Mullins, 16-1 the Ballymore, 8-1 the County. He's formed behind Bob Olinger and appreciated in Grade 1 company. Where does he go? How can he do it?
Well, I put the entry in for the County Hurdle, and all I've seen in previews from Willie is saying, connections have put him in the county hurdle, but I don't think he's going there. So that was a waste of an entry, I think. But I don't know. He's actually anti-post favourite for the county, but I do take on board. Willie thinks that his jumping isn't slick enough for an all-age handicap hurdle like that around Cheltenham, and he's got a lot to be said for that. That's probably true. I'm actually, last season there was talk about putting Concertista in the Coral Cup, and I said to Willie, well, why? We've only got 5 to beat in the Mayor's Novice Hurdle. Why do we want to take on 25 others in the Coral Cup? And actually, when you took it that way, you thought, oh, yeah. And so Willie went with that. And when we thought about it, that was a sensible route. And it worked out well for Concertista to go in novice route. I think Blue Lord, I think I should use the same argument at myself again for this one. Why, he's going to be in the 5 in the Supreme Hurdle, Supreme Novices. He might not be able to appreciate it, but he's going to be in the shake-up for a place. Whereas in the county hurdle, you're going to have 24 runners and every single one has got an equal chance. So I'm thinking, it sounds to me that we'll go Supreme Novices with Blue Lord. He'd be second string for Willie Mullins. I appreciate this is going to be very difficult to beat. But one thing about Blue Lord is he's learning on the job. He's very lightly raced, and he settled better last time. And I think the Supreme will be run at a fast pace. He'll be able to get settled, and he does stay further. So he could be running on and running into the places, hopefully.
I do an input into the entry of James de Burley, 25 to 1 in the champion hurdle, who is yet to run for Willie Mullins.
I wasn't involved in that entry. It surprised us when it came in, to be honest. The horse was sent over there, having had a big season as a 4-year-old in France, just touched off by Whisker in both grade 1s, but had won a number of grade 3s. He's a very good horse. We're supposed to just be get the feel of Close Sutton, and just wait for next season, go novice chasing. But Willie put the entry in and sounds pretty like he wants to run. So it looks at this moment in time that he'll be turning up in a champion hurdle, and he's sweet on the horse. I just wonder if he's going to be coming back from 2.5 miles at Auteuil in heavy ground to a 2-mile champion hurdle, smaller jumps, less number of jumps to jump. I don't know, but he was a bit free in France, so possibly a champion hurdle pace would be quite good anyway to get him settled and to thing. But it's a big ask for a 5-year-old, and to have his first English run, at Cheltenham would be a big shout. But Willie's a clever man, and he wouldn't have done it. It's not been the pressure from owners to this horse. You've got this horse, get him in the champion hurdle. Never was mooted. It's Willie's plan all the way through, and you've got to take on board when he does things like that.
Don't you, Justin? That makes that entry all the more intriguing, if I'm honest. Concertista for the Mares. She's one of the bankers of the week. Will you put us off?
No, although
good.
I was talking to Dan Skelton just earlier, and I was just quizzing him to see if he's definitely running Roxana in the Mares, as that's the danger. But she's been running at 3 miles, and he's going to be coming back. She seems improved over 3 miles, and coming back to 2.5 might be against Roxana a bit. But it did sound like Dan's going to take us on with his mare. I was sort of suggesting there was much more prize money and offer in the Stayers hurdle, and perhaps he should think about that. But he didn't seem to be going with that route. No, I think Roxana's the big danger. Dame de Compagnie's in there. She won the Coral Cup last year. So it's not a gimme race, certainly not a banker bet, but there's no negatives on Concertista, and fingers crossed she came up that hill really well last year. She does seem to run extremely well at Cheltenham. She did in the Mayor's Novice 2 years ago on her hurdles debut in her first run for 600 days. She got beat a short head, and we thought we'd won that day, but she does seem to run really well at Cheltenham, and that's a good sign, isn't it? You'd like to follow horses that run well at festivals.
Yeah, I think there'll be a lot following Concertista. Now, the Arkle is coming up early in the week. It is, for many people, the race of the week. It's the great unknown. You have the great big chasing in Ergamine, the UK point-to-pointer in the Irish yard, and you have the Irish point-to-pointer Shishkin in the UK yard. Have you had time to, Nicky said he was afraid of an Ergamine and these great big monsters of horses that Willie has, but Shishkin, surely, Anthony, give me the faith here, because I am a Shishkin believer. Am I right?
Yeah.
Don't start on.
The only thing is slightly. I look. Everything's gone great with the horse. Apparently, look. He's won at the festival.
Take me back for a moment. Take me back. Sorry here. Take me back to, you go to the sales, you arrive. How does that work that you land on a shishkin? Let's go through because I remember shishkin, I know and the late who bred him. I remember them buying the mare. So I've known his story for quite some time. I saw him win his point to point impressively. He arrives at Cheltenham, you arrive in, you don't know what you're about to see on the day. How does that process work?
Yeah, so, well, you know, I go through all the, once the catalogue gets all together and we go through all the things. So I've probably got, I think for that sale, I had about 8 or 10 horses on a sort of what I call a bold type list, on my sort of A list to look at. Now, I knew that Minty and Nicky had a good order for the sale for Joe Donnelly. And so, and you know that I go the day before, there's a few of us go the day before to see all the horses, and we see every single horse for every budget. But then on that, the evening prior to the sale, when everyone arrives the next day, I then do my little lists for each client of what they're looking for, what budget might work, you know, what horse could come in their budget. So actually, I did look up in my old catalogue, and I've got it down to 4 horses to show Nicky and Minty the next morning. Right, and actually it was quite a good advert for Tattersalls Cheltenham, because actually the 4 horses have ended up being okay, right?
I'm relieved.
So I showed them 4 horses, and I'll tell you what they were, because it was interesting just looking it up. It was a good catalogue that year, that December catalogue.
Okay, always, Anthony.
Yeah. So Killer Clown,
yes,
Silver Hallmark of Pat Doyle's,
oh, yes. Brian, nope.
Shishkin of the Considines, and Chantry House. And those are the 4 horses I showed to Minty and Nicky that morning. They don't want to see 15 or whatever that. They saw 4 horses. And to be fair to Nicky, and I will give him, he saw Shishkin last of the 4, and he said, right, that's Joe. That's the one for Joe. And he went off, you know, and that was the one they were going for. He didn't follow the other 3 through. I mean, Chantry House ended up making 295, I think, that sale. For JP later on. Shishkin, I think Killer Clan came first, then Shishkin, but we weren't looking. We only got Joe on 1 horse, and that was down to Minty and Nicky saying boom. So I will give them a load of credit. You know that I offered 4. I think these 4 would be the nicest. They weren't actually; those 4 weren't the highest. Well, I think Chantry House might have been top price, but there were some other horses I could have put in that were higher priced on the night. But so that was really the thing with Shishkin.
In your mind, what did Nicky Henderson see in that moment, or what did you see to put him into your shortlist, or Nicky see to say that's him, that's the one?
We do love seeing a beautifully conformed horse, and he was that. He put his four legs in all corners. He had that lovely colour about him, which Nicky does like, and he had a prowl to him that, you know, that he had such fluent movement, and he moved well at the jog as well as the walk, and it was fairly sort of apparent that was going to be the horse he liked most. But he couldn't just show him 1 horse. But I thought that he would go for that horse. That's why I showed him 4th of the 4. So, yeah, I always put the last one that I think he liked at the end. Yeah,
you realize,
so I was pleased that he chose it, but at the same time it was their order. It wasn't my order. Mr. Donnelly was Minty and Nicky. So yes, I'm not down for finding the horse and saying, I wish I did, but you know, it was their order really, and we need the order. I can't do it without someone there to buy it.
Well, this is a Cheltenham preview. We need to ascertain what is actually going to win the Arkle. Will it be an Ergamine, or will it be Shishkin?
Well, you could even throw
another.
Well, I mean, All Mankind.
Yes.
It's going to. I think it's a fascinating race in how it's going to pan out. There's going to be furious pace up front. Now, the only chink that Shishkin showed at Kempton, I thought, was he was flat out with Gumball going that pace around Kempton, and at halfway you weren't sure what was going to happen. Well, you were thinking bad thoughts, but then Gumball couldn't keep it up. But All Mankind can keep up that pace. Now, that's the only thing in the back of my mind is I hope that Shishkin can hold it together and not get, you know, detached or his jumping goes or something like that, because they will be going lickety split around there. Now, the only thing is I think All Mankind might be his own worst enemy because he can hit a fence and he only needs to hit the second last and that'll be him done probably. So, and then you've got Energumene probably sitting on his tail, trying to chase him a bit. But it's how far off is Shishkin going to be at that second last? Now, you know he's going to come up that hill, but if he's got 10 lengths to find on Energumene, who knows? Let's hope he hasn't got to find 10 lengths, because I think he would struggle then. But I think it's an exciting one. I mean, it is, you know, I don't think you're going to see something career away with it. I think it's going to be it'll be a slog, and it'll be something who stays well. And I think Shishkin, he's probably a 2.5 miler in the future. There's a lot of similarities to him in Altior, and Altior comes up that hill well and finishes off well.
But we can't ask you more than not just the winner, the 1, 2, 3, Anthony Bromley. Don't know how to begin thanking you for that sort of a level of depth and detail, and thank you for your time as well. It's been fascinating.
Well, that is why our Tattersalls Cheltenham Festival Preview is different to most of the others you'll watch, because where else are you going to get such terrific insight like that? And that's just the first of the interviews we have for you. We have loads more coming your way, but that was absolutely brilliant from Anthony Bromley. What a man. And one of the horses he spoke about there is one of the horses who is a big price for the Champion Hurdle. But when he was talking about him, I pricked my ears. It's very fascinating that James de Burley has an entry in the Champion Hurdle, and that segues us nicely on to talk about the first of the championship races on the first day, the Champion Hurdle. Jamie Codd, Honeysuckle at the moment is the 5-2 favourite behind the reigning champion Epatante, and then Goshen in there as well. Another fascinating contest. For me, I'm sticking with the reigning champion with Epatante. I'm putting all my faith in Nikki Henderson to get her back to her absolute best. And it's going to come down to the ground, I think, between the two mares. Can Honeysuckle cope with a quicker surface than what we've seen her running on throughout this winter?
Yeah, look at it. It's going to be a test for her, but I think she's improving. You know, I thought Leopardstown the last day for Honeysuckle was extraordinary. Just the way she went down the back straight in Leopardstown, 4, 3, 2 out. That's where her race was won, and she more or less coasted home from the back of the second last. It was incredible, and you know, the confidence that Rachel had in the mare as well. It was really, really beautiful to watch. I just want to see Honeysuckle win. I love a good mare, and I think it's a great story for Rachel as well. You know, so, and it's what you can pick up. This mare was bought out of a Derby sale for 9.5 grand. You know, so you know, 9.5 grand, and to turn out to be a champion like she is, it'll be a great story. But she's not going to have it all her own way. It's very competitive. Abracadabras is there. Obviously, Epatante, the last year's winner, another very, very good mare. But she's had a little bit of a few problems this year. Seemingly reports that a few little back issues and this and that. So it'll be interesting to see what sort of shape she turns up in. But going into it, Honeysuckle is doing everything right. She seems to be improving, and I think it'll be a great story for racing if she could go and win a Champion Hurdle.
Sounds like it's head and heart with Honeysuckle for Jamie Codd. Richard, which way are you going? Where are you sort of falling in the Champion Hurdle?
There's only one way to fall. Jamie will tell you last year I was almost offended by the Honeysuckle price being nearly 3-1 for the Mare's Hurdle. She was an Irish Champion Hurdle winner coming to Cheltenham. I even stopped Henry de Bromhead the morning of the race and said, this price is a disgrace. I think he looked at me and said, I don't care about the price. I care if you win. She's unbeaten, and she's the closest thing to unbeatable I've seen. She is getting better. I can't see anything getting close to her. I just think she wins this by so far. She's a dual Irish Champion Hurdle winner. And until she's beaten, to me, she's the absolute queen. Little bit of value each way. We have two, stick with me here, September yearling graduates.
Ooh.
Producer of an Irish Champion Hurdle and a Cheltenham winner in Wicklow Brave. Aspire Tower and Silver Streak are both around the 14-1 mark. I think Aspire Tower is improving. He was at 30,000. Joey Logan bought him out of the September yearling sale, and Anne Duffield gave 45,000 for Silver Streak. Both have proven themselves. Silver Streak is different. He's proven himself in a Champion Hurdle twice. He beat Epatante last time, and just for that reason, 14-1 is a big price, and Aspire Tower is just a big improver. So Honeysuckle wins, and go look for the value after that.
Okay, fair enough. Just before we move on, just because Jamie mentioned it, and look, we're going to talk about horses that have been through the sales ring and have cost the same as my house, essentially. But obviously, Honeysuckle is not one of those, as she only cost €9,500. Richard, just a quick line on why she only cost that much, and is that a 1 in a million lottery ticket they've picked up, or is it doable?
Look, there's value to be had at every sale. Her sire wasn't for everybody at the time. Suleimani and Mark O'Hare, who was a very good judge, just decided he was going to take the chance in that moment at that time. And I think that's what we all do when we go to sale. We hope we find the one that drops below, the one that everybody else missed. And it's nice to see that it's possible. And for Mark O'Hare, it was possible. And for Henry de Bromhead to pick her up and take her on from there, it's worked for everybody.
Well, it is indeed a brilliant story, but what a cliche we all are, hey? The Irish lad sticking with the Irish mare and the English girl sticking with the English mare in Epatante. So yeah, that's a nice little cliche, but we'll take it all the same. And we can move on to the Ballymore hurdle, back down to the novices now at the medium trip. And Jamie, I'm coming straight to you here because you moved a market. You did one preview show and you managed to move a market because Gaillard de Menil had been favourite for this race for a good while after winning at Leopardstown. And then you come along and start singing Bob Ollinger's praises and bang, joint favourites currently. I don't need to ask you who you're with, but were you surprised you managed to move a market?
Yeah, I don't know. It's going to be very, very funny, Vanessa. So, yeah, look, it's a horse I've loved all along is Bob Ollinger. But he's not going to have it his own way. Brave Man's Game is he's a lovely, lovely horse who's progressing very, very well. Won his point to point for Donegal Doyle, and the one thing I noticed when he went through the sales ring at a festival sale with us, he was the most beautiful horse. He really stood up in every way. He had size, he had scope, beautiful mover, and I suppose that's what's transpiring here. That you know his beautiful movement and his size and scope is really coming through and what he's doing on the track now. So, Bob Ollinger is not going to have everything his own way, but look at his breeders, Ken and Peter Parkhill are great supporters, and they've bred a superstar here, and I think he probably will be hard to beat.
Fair enough. The case made. The market won't move again, I don't think. Richard, I wanted to ask you if you had any sort of horses, who you fancy for starters, but can you give a special mention to Bear Grylls, please? Any scope for him to win this?
Look, unusually, I'm in agreement with Jamie. I think he's right. I think Bob Ollinger will win. It pains, you don't know how much it pains me to say those words. Jamie is right, but there you go. It's out. It's done. Look, Bear Grylls was really well found. A 22,000 purchase from the Derby sale. You know, he comes there 4 from 4 and might just be overlooked and provide the value. And in truth, in those races, that's really what you're looking for. Probably has a little bit more to find. He won last time off 130 by 5 lengths. So, you know, he's on an upward curve, but we know what Bob Ollinger has done. Gaillard de Menil, we know what he's done. And Brave Man's Game, you know, Paul Nicholls has been so bullish about him in the Denman, mentions that he's given him as well. So it's a proper race for depth here, but I think Bob Ollinger with his recent form, even the 14 lengths of Dunboyne, he's won since, and the Blue Lord, we've heard Anthony Bromley been quite sweet on him. It's all there in front of you.
2 votes for Bob Ollinger. I should just say I was lucky enough to go down to see Bear Grylls at Nicky Martin's yard last week. You know, another, if we're talking about great stories for anyone who doesn't know, he'd be a great story, trained by a permit holder and from a very small yard in Exmoor, and he looked in terrific nick. They've got a wonderful setup down there, and so due to the fact I went, of course, I suddenly came away and I was like, I really hope he manages to run a really good race, and I think he will. He's 16-1. He might be an each way shout for someone out there looking for a bit of value. And the other horse I managed to see last week as well is Brave Man's Game down at Paul Nicholls' yards. And as Jamie touched upon there, he is a beautiful looking horse. I mean, he stands out a mile on the gallop, and I know that's a cliche, but my God, you watch them all canter past and you say, what is that? And it's Brave Man's Game. The man who is lucky enough to own Brave Man's Game is, of course, John Dance. And Richard caught up with him earlier.
I'm joined here by John Dance, a racehorse owner at the Cheltenham Festival. That's somewhere we'd all love to be. What does it mean to you to be just that next week?
It's very exciting. We're obviously more known for our flat horses. And we've had a few in the last couple of years in the National Hunt sphere, just to kind of keep us going through the winters. And it's originally to, something to occupy us whilst waiting for Lawrence to come back out. And, just like you never really dream that she'd go on to do what she did, you don't really sort of, or as much as you do dream, I suppose, you never really expect to have a horse like Brave Man's Game and to be, going to the Cheltenham Festival with it. So it's very exciting. We're very proud, very honoured, and we're very lucky to share a very nice horse with Brian Drew and his family.
Many people can only dream of owning a Cheltenham Festival runner, not to mind a winner. Take us back to 2019. I would have known Brave Man's Game. He was a Derby Sale graduate from Busher Bloodstock to Munbake Stables, but he turned up at the festival sale in 2019. How did Brave Man's Game and John Dance come together? What's the connection? How did it happen?
Yeah, well, I'd been speaking to Paul Nicholls, Megan Nicholls, and about maybe getting some horses to have down with Paul. They obviously had a list of horses from that sale they liked. I'd looked at the majority of the point-to-point form that was on offer there. He was certainly one that made my shortlist, along with another one called Jeremy Pass. So I was on the phone with him whilst he was going through the ring, and he started making more and more money. And at that point, I had to say that I backed out because he got far too rich for me. But fair play to Tom Malone and Paul Nicholls. They kept going. They felt that they would find a buyer for him, and having won the bidding battle themselves, they did come back to me almost instantly and said, if we could find someone to take half, would you be interested in half of him? And I'm pretty sure my half still cost more than I would have liked to have paid in the first place. But I thought that was maybe a good way of being involved in the horse.
From your point of view, that moment, not just with Brave Man's Game, when the hammer falls and you now own the horse, it's a real sense of anticipation, isn't it, as to what might now happen?
As soon as that sort of horse is knocked down to you or turned over to you, you do start dreaming, and you do with any horse. It doesn't matter whether they're a sales topper or one from the lower end of the prices made. You dream about every horse. From day one, you dream that you've got a Gold Cup horse or a Cheltenham horse, and to date we haven't had to sort of reset those dreams, which is obviously great position to be in.
And Paul's language, we've all seen the link to Denman. That must excite you.
Oh, definitely. And I know that part of that link and his reference to Denman is as much about him following the Denman route as opposed to necessarily ability or what he shows at home. A lot of it is where he's ran his novices, when he's ran his novices, the fact that he went and won the Challow, obvious comparisons in terms of following the same route. But he won't thank me for saying this, but there have definitely been a few private hints even before winning novices and Challows that there was something about Denman that in Brave Man's Game, and hopefully that's he sees a similar level of ability. And when you go back and look at Denman's Challow form, at this point you could argue he certainly is just as good at this point, but we obviously know that Denman went on to be an all-time legend and an all-time great, and if we could maybe get halfway between where we are now and where Denman got, then I think you'd still have to be incredibly happy, wouldn't you?
On the race itself, Galar de Menil looks smart. Jamie Codd says Bob Ollinger is a God-given certainty and is at the races preview.
Yeah, I heard that.
What's your take on the race in a general sense?
At the moment, on paper, it looks like a 3-horse race with those 3 you've just mentioned. You know, I've watched enough Cheltenham festivals and enough novice hurdle races to know there's almost certainly going to be 1 or 2 that come out of the pack that, you know, they might have been progressive so far, and the next step of progression might just be, you know, quite a bigger lump or bigger jump in form yet. So it looks like a 3-horse race on paper, but I'm pretty convinced it won't be. I have to admit, I haven't looked at the rest of them closely enough to maybe cherry pick the ones that might mix it up with those 3. But I'm sure that when I do, you know, there'll be a few and there'll be something that comes as a complete surprise. I think Jamie is right in that.
Please don't say Jamie is right.
No, he's right that out of the 2 Irish horses, I think Bob Ollinger's. I think he is slightly the bigger danger out of those 2. That's the only respect that he's right. Unless he knows something we don't, and that Brave Man's Game isn't running. Bob Ollinger clearly isn't a God-given certainty. But I think I prefer him out of those 2. He has won his races more comfortably, but arguably they weren't maybe quite as competitive. But I think when you offset them, I think he's just ahead for me. As for God-given certainty, he obviously has no idea how much we think Brave Man's Game is going to improve naturally, how much he'll improve for what is likely to be a stronger pace. He's wrong in that respect.
Well, look, Brave Man's Game, from Busher, Bloodstock to Munbeck Stables and Donncha Doyle, and to yourself, to Brian Drew, to Paul Nicholls, he's had a good journey through, and I can see he's endeared himself to a lot of people, and I'm sure if he wins next week, he'll endear himself to plenty more. John, thank you for taking the time. I hope you are successful next week when Brave Man Game comes good.
Let's move on to the Brown Advisory Chase, where we get to see another sensational novice chaser. I feel like we're going through a real golden era of novice chasers this time around. And one of my absolute favourites now is Monkfish. And Jamie, I want to come straight to you about Monkfish, because for me, he's one of these horses who we all sit around trying to pick holes in him. He's 11-8 on favourite for this race. And, you know, people on panels left, right and centre want to try take him on potentially, but I can't find a hole to pick in Monkfish. And to me, when I look at him, there's a gorgeous shot of him going around. He moves beautifully, he jumps for fun, he's speed, he's stamina. I mean, I don't mean to wax lyrical about him, but it's hard not to. Is he the absolute full package when it comes to a novice chaser, Jamie?
I think he's developing all the time. Yeah. I think when his bumper to early hurdle form last year, I suppose Willie Mullins was trying to figure him out a small bit. I don't think they were that impressed with him when he first arrived. They kind of thought he was big and gangly, but like, this horse is 17 hands, and this is what he was bought to be, a big chaser, a future Gold Cup winner, please God. And he really is. He's shaping into that every day we see him. Leopardstown the last day, his jumping for me was, there was a couple of close-up shots of him jumping, and it was just beautiful to watch. It was pure rhythm. Paul, I'd say, on his back was just getting a brilliant feel off him, and to our eye, it was lovely to see. I think this race is made from the trip. He has the class. Obviously, he stepped back to 2.5 in Leopardstown the last day and had the class to be able to adapt to that. But stepping back up in trip, I don't think it's going to be a problem again. And he has that form last year from the Albert Bartlett, and yeah, he's doing what he was supposed to do.
Is there anything else, Jamie, at a bigger price that you think will chase him home then?
Yeah, look, there's a horse there called Sporting John. So I feel that he's progressing as well, but you know, and the Big Breakaway is another horse there that needs to be looked at. But I think this is all about Monkfish and I'd say the rest of them, you know, barring a blip or a mistake or something like that, you'd like to think that Monkfish can put in a very, very good performance here.
Yeah, I'll be sitting back and enjoying this race from the comfort of my sofa at home, and I'll absolutely love it. Richard, touching on what Jamie said there about Monkfish in terms of this is what he's meant to do. He's a staying chaser, and now we're seeing him at his best. And it's just quite interesting because I think last year in Albert Bartlett, I, for one, made the wrong assumption that he lacked a touch of class. Like, he kind of scraped home, and he's got, dare I say, a bit of a hunter head on him, which I've said that before, but now I'm retracting that comment because he seems to have sort of grown and developed into a much classier individual. Would you agree with that?
He has. As Jamie says, he's 17 hands. He's filled his frame. He almost can't be beaten. I can't even see him fall. He might trip up or something, but that's the only thing that can beat him. He looks the full package. I think if he turned up in the Gold Cup, he'd be a worthy favourite. I think if Envoilin turned up in the Gold Cup, he'd be a worthy favourite. That's the level of novices we have at the moment. If you wanted to be slightly disappointed, in the old days, you would have had a Florida Pearl, a Scartafigue match, and we'd have got to find out which of the two of them is best this year. But because of the nature of the 4-day festival, we have to wait an extra year to see if the two of them go head to head. But in this race, under these terms and conditions, he's never won below 2.5 miles. So I think if him and Envoilin met, I know where I'd side. But at the moment, over this trip, with these terms and conditions, I think move on. He wins. End of.
Move on that we can, and we can move swiftly on to our next interview, because time for another one of these gems. And this time we're going to catch up with Cormac Doyle, who is the man who bought and sold Monkfish, and also Matt Hall, Tattersalls' own family. Matt Hall, the man who was selling him at the sales.
Cormac, in relation to Monkfish, I was at Leopardstown for the Dublin Racing Festival, impressive that he was. And when he pulled up, Ted Walsh said, "Well done, Cormac Doyle. It wasn't straightforward. It was a brave move to buy him." He meant that because he was such a big horse. Was there ever a doubt in your mind from when you saw him that you needed to have him?
Not really, no. He was very big at the sales. And he was very big. I was a bit worried maybe about his wind or something, but Dara Burry recommended him. He was doing the horses with Richard Busher at the time. And he said that he was savage in the ring. He said he was as clear-winded as anything. So when he said that, you were safe enough.
Cormac, when you go through the Derby sale, you go through your catalogue, you go through the horses, you have a big list. Do you remember this guy clearly?
Yeah, I do, yeah.
Talk to me about him.
He was very, very big, all right, but he was so light on his feet. He was probably the best mover to sale I thought on the day. Okay,
so you liked him, you thought he stood out as one of the standout mover of the catalogue, is how you describe him. So when you go in, you probably think, well, everybody has seen this. He might make more than my budget. It must be a great feeling when they land for you.
Yeah, I was savage. Yeah, I thought he would have made a lot more. I'd say on the day, he was probably knocked for height. Everyone probably thought he was too big on the day, so it worked out well. Yeah, I thought he would have made a lot more.
And from the moment he arrives down at your yard and you begin to break him, how soon do you realise this guy is everything I wanted him to be and maybe a little more?
Yeah, probably not so much. You think he was going to be as good as he is at the start, but he was so backward and green. But I remember going to Old Town one day schooling, and he was unbelievable. He went around in a bunch of 6 or 7 horses. They're good horses now. Eclair Surf was one of them, and a few of them, and he was phenomenal. He came up the straight on his own that day, and that's when everyone sort of said he was very good.
That's always a happy sight.
Yeah.
Especially when it's one of your own.
Especially when it's one of your own, yeah.
And talk us through, so you bring him the first day to Cragmore. It was a hell of a maiden Sam's profile, the old car, but it didn't quite operate from the first day. Talk us through that.
I think where that went wrong was we had him in Old Town the week before that, and he got it very well in Old Town. It was only 6 days before Cragmore, and I'd say we headed on to Cragmore after doing too much in Old Town with him. I'd say for such a young horse and the height of him, I'd say we we probably should have left him for 3 weeks after Ballymore or a month, and we would have seen a different result.
And do you lose faith in a horse? Do you get wary, or are we still confident? No, listen, we'll pick up the pieces here and we'll come out the far side with a winner.
No, we're very confident. We came home after Ballymore and he got a month off, and we knew then he was back to where he was.
And on then to Stolen was where he delivered for you and he won.
Yeah, he went to Stolen, yeah. It was a good race that day. There was plenty of good horses in behind Chantry House and Fiddler on Fury Road, so it worked out. Very good maiden.
Didn't it just? And then I presume Richard Bott. No, Matt Hall was there on the day, I believe. Was he?
Matt was there on the day, yeah.
He truly spotted the talent. You probably didn't know what you had till Matt told you.
He even said the day he was selling him that he promised him he'd bring him back there.
Matt, how did you come to be at Stolen point to point in the middle of April, the end of April in 2018?
Well, I was on a bit of a busman's holiday, Richard, for want of a better phrase. I was at the Tattersalls Festival, and I was called into action, if you like, to go and cover the meeting for Tattersalls, and arrived down in County Galway, I believe. Good old journey across country. Arrived down to Stolen to be greeted by Graham Breen, of course, who's a big cog in the operation at Cormac Doyle's yard. And he told me, Matt, we're running a right one today. So anyway, they were parading for the 4-year-old maiden, and this big, fine chestnut horse came by me, and he really stood out there. And it's funny what you say, because the way the races worked out, remarkable. You had Chantry House in the race. I think you had Fury Road in the race as well. Obviously, your fella's gone on to do what he's done, but there were some proper horses in that paddock. But your lad really did stand out, and he was he was electric on the day. I remember it well. I actually went down to the second last to watch the race, and what struck me was the speed in which he came by me, and he absolutely winged 2 out. Don't know if you remember. You'll probably remember well, Call Me, but he winged 2 out, went to the front, and he just got in a little bit tight to the last, but he stayed on all the way to the line, and he won going away. But what really struck me, as I say, the speed he came by me and the accuracy of his jumping that day was just phenomenal.
And Matt, you then had the pleasure of meeting Cormac at Cheltenham. Cormac, talk us through when you get to Cheltenham and you check who your auctioneer is. How does that dynamic work? You meet them the day before the sale, you find out who it is.
Be nice now, Cormac.
Sure, it's all about, so you'd wonder who's selling them, and then you'd get nervous before you go in then, because you'd wonder if the big lads are out or they're in, or if you don't know what's going on then, and you sort of have to really wait and see till you get in to see what will happen.
But when you were at Cheltenham, you obviously saw the horse at the Derby sale and you liked him as a mover and you wondered would he come to hand. But now you've got to Cheltenham, he has come to hand, he has shown ability and he still moves well. Did he capture the imagination of the viewers, do you think, before ever he went into the ring? Did you had a good vibe about it?
I did, yeah. There was a lot of people going in to buy him anyway. I'd say from 100 to 200, I had maybe 5 or 6 lads to buy him, kind of way. And then I think it was Harold Kirk and Mac Home, and then the rest of the way from 200 up.
And nice to go that little bit past where you knew you had support to get those few extra bids. It's always welcome.
That's why, yeah. I knew I was safe going in. I think it was reserved at 100 at the time. I knew I was safe to get 150 anyway.
And Matt Hall, from an auctioneer's point of view, unusual, I suppose, that you saw the horse win. So you had real belief in the horse, and you came out with a line on the rostrum that might stand to you in the future. He'll bring you back. Did you really believe it, or was that a line for the moment?
It's probably one of those spur of the moment things, Richard. But I was part of the journey the whole way, which was nice. And as I say, I thoroughly believe this was a very good horse from the moment I saw him there in Stolen. And what stood out to me as well when he was actually at the sale. Talk about nerves. I get nervous before I go up on the rostrum, and as Cormac does as a vendor, you want to do the best for everyone. But what stood out to me at the sale was, I remember Paddy Kelly, I think, was leading him up, Cormac, and he was such a great mover. I know you alluded to that earlier, but he floated really for such a big horse. And obviously, we all look at the horses before we sell them, and really stood out to me what a great mover he was, and just the impression he created I suppose it was a bit of a spur of the moment thing, Rich, but I did believe he'd bring someone back, and he sure has, and he's bringing them back for a second time, and he might bring them back for a third time, all being well. So, fingers crossed.
Can either of you see a danger to him in the next week at the Cheltenham Festival? Is he as unbeatable as the narrative behind him seems to suggest? Cormac, you first.
I think he is. Yeah, I think his jumping is savage. I don't think anything can get near him now. I don't. I think the only way he can get back if something seriously goes wrong, if he falls, I can see nothing beating him anyway.
I think he's bomb-proof. You can't get to the bottom of this horse. I actually think if he was running in the Gold Cup this year, I think he'd win the Gold Cup.
Oh, no, nowhere near the fence there, Matt. You're all chips in on Monkfish. I love it. All chips in. We believe in this horse. Yeah, he's the one. Banker of the week. Banker of the week. You heard it here first, Matt. Just we run the risk in Ireland of we're fortunate we've some nice horses over here at the minute, but we seem to think all that happens over here is going to dominate when it comes to Cheltenham, and that generally means that we miss a few of the leading English candidates. What do you think we should be watching for from the UK trained horses that we might be overlooking from an Irish perspective? Well, we're very much the underdogs going into this year's festival. Everything I read and see, it's going to be Irish domination. Certainly looks that way on paper, but it never quite plays out the way like that usually. I obviously think Shiskin, a fellow Cheltenham graduate, a point-to-point graduate, he's the English banker of the week, I would suggest, from this side of the shore. Another horse I thought very exciting point-to-point graduate, Brave Man's Game. I think he'll take all the beating in the Ballymore Novices Hurdle. I think he's a very exciting horse, and obviously his trainers compared him favourably to Denman, which is a pretty ringing endorsement for him. So I would say those two are our biggest and best chances of the week. But we need a few more to take down the Irish. Obviously, we're a little tight for time, so we can't go through all of your anti-post bets. But if there's one in particular that you'd like to pull out, yeah, it's the best week of the year, and I actually had a few wagers on the Cheltenham Festival back in September, Monkfish being one of them. So hopefully they get there in one piece. But a sneaky one in the handicaps, Lieutenant Rocco, an English horse. Lieutenant Rocco in the ultimate handicap chase. I think Nick Mitchell trains it now. He's a sneaky one. One thing, Cormac, you're renowned for naming your horses. You're famous in the point-to-point sphere for giving them memorable names. How did you come up with Monkfish?
Monkfish. I bought him off Richard Busher, and I remember the day he called up one time afterwards to give me a look penny out of him, and he brought up a big bag of monkfish. So he was a fishing man himself, so that's where I called him that.
Gentlemen, you've both given me the banker of Monkfish. Thank you for taking the time to join us here this afternoon or this evening. We wish you luck at Monkfish next week. Matt's bursting to get in. He's got one more winner. What is it, Matt? One more. Cormac, give us one to follow. Give us a 4-year-old that's catching your eye at the moment. Give the viewers the next Monkfish.
He's a Cave Tara horse called Big Changes.
Big Changes.
There we go.
He's very good.
Excellent. And will we see him this season or autumn?
We'll see him. We could see him in 2 weeks in one of the bumpers.
Well done.
And if not, but we'll see him soon. Yeah, he's very good. Very good.
Listen, both of you, thank you very much. It's been great to catch up. And as I say, we wish you luck next week. And Cormac, I hope to see you in a point-to-point field before long. Matt, I hope to see you at a sales before long, and we get back to normality sooner rather than later. Thank you.
Thanks. See you, Matt. See you, Richard.
Oh, that is brilliant. You see, this is what I love about these interviews, is you get an inside track and not necessarily, you get a more human element. I love hearing about where Monkfish has come from. I love hearing about why he's named Monkfish and his background. And I mean, the biggest surprise of that whole interview is that Matt Hall actually sounded even a fraction like he knows what he's talking about, boys. That was shocking. But anyway, let us move on to the Champion Chase. Next big championship race to dissect, and again, feel like I'm a record on repeat. We've got another short-priced Irish horse here. Jamie Codd, is Chacun Pour Soi in banker category when it comes to this champion chase?
Yeah, my big concern here is that the lack of course experience. You know, he's a huge big horse as well. His jumping is good, but it's been good around the likes of Leopardstown, Punchestown, you know, those big Irish tracks. So that's the one worry I'd have with him, is that he handles the undulations of a Cheltenham, the up and down and around, and you know, the champion chase, there's no hiding places. It's you know, helter skelter from the very, very start, and yeah, he's just going to have to overcome those. But that's the only thing that you can really say that's a chink in his armory. Really, he looks flawless. His jumping, as I say, does hold up on the big tracks, and he looks exceptional. But look, there's loads there. You know, Altior's 11, but you'd love to see him maybe come back and see how he goes. But there's a horse there of Kim Bailey's First Flow that you know, it'll be a brilliant story. He's by primary. He was bred by the Floods down in Wexford, and another one, like, he was 9.5 grand store, and you know, he's now a Grade 1 winner and now running the champion chase in Cheltenham. So it'll be a marvelous story for all concerned if he could pop up. And his form is there in the book. He beat last year's winner in Ascot, Politolog, and you know, so he's going there with a fighting chance.
Yeah, absolutely is, Jamie, and he's another one who has to take to the track at Cheltenham, just like what you said about Chacun Pour Soi, two horses who are unproven at Cheltenham, but with huge engines and proven over the 2 miles. One horse who is proven at Cheltenham and seems to bring her best form, Richard Pugh, is Put the Kettle On. Away from maybe Chacun Pour Soi, are you looking at her or any others to take him on or chase him home? Where are you falling in this race?
Look, if you want to know what's going to win the race, you have to side with him. I actually thought he was not a non-stayer. I thought 2 miles as far as he wanted, and I thought he's probably the best 1:07 chaser we'd ever seen. He does look unbeatable, but at 4 to 5 as a punter, I think you do have to start looking a little further. And Jamie's mentioned First Flow 10 to 1, Politolog, last year's winner, around the same, and Put the Kettle On absolutely at 12 to 1. You know, you're going to have to look a little further here to try and find what can take him on at the price. Yeah, you expect him to win, but at 4 to 6, I don't think he's quite a 4 to 6 shot. The last run he had was the first time he galloped out through the line, but he beat Fakir Dudery, who had pulled up in his previous run, and Notebook didn't run his race. He was a long way further behind him than he had been the previous day. So yes, I think he wins, but at 4 to 5, you're absolutely right. It's the First Flows, it's the Politologs, and it's the Put the Kettle On that you're looking for to say, where's the value to take him on? Because yeah, it's just gone too short for me.
Yeah, too short for me indeed. You mentioned the horse that chased him home was Fakir Duderis, who was my fancy for the Ryanair, who we'll talk about later. But Chacun Pour Soi looks rock solid when it comes to the win. I just hope that he manages to actually get to the race this time around, because of course it was a huge disappointment last year when he was pulled out the morning of. Fingers crossed. Let's rock and roll on to the champion bumper, boys. Well, Jamie first and foremost, and Richard a close second. This is your playground. Jamie, tell me, is Kilcrut all he's cracked up to be, or are we with Sir Gerhard? What is going on here? Tell me, the champion bumper. Give me the winner, please.
Look, I'm not going to Cheltenham this year, but I was really looking forward to riding Sir Gerhard. You know, he's been all along from his point to point with the Holdens, and his bumper form is very good. He was a few lengths in front of Gavin Cromwell's, let's be clear about it, in Navan in a listed bumper the last day, and Gavin's horse has since backed that up in Leopardstown. He ran second to Kilcrut. Kilcrut is obviously very good. They're 2 6-year-olds, so they actually have a little bit of age and experience on their side, Kilcrut and Sir Gerhard. But I just think that going forward, Sir Gerhard is a horse that could potentially line up in a champion hurdle in a couple of years' time. He's fast. He's a great ride. He races a little bit behind the ride, but when you switch him on, he gets going very, very quickly. And I'd say he'll stay as well. He won his point of point, so he will stay as well. But look, at people were looking to knock Kilcrutt's performance the last day in Leopardstown. Me for one, I don't think that the performance, I thought it was very, very good. I think all a racehorse can do on any given day is win, let it be a slowly run race or a fast run race, and that's exactly what he done. I'd say if they had went steady, he still would have won. So I think he's a very, very good horse, and it'll be an interesting battle. But there's plenty there.
Where do you see Three Stripe Life, Jamie?
Yeah, he's a horse I really like, Richard. Really, really like. His work had been very, very good. He's by leading light, and he came out of the Derby sale as well. And but he's a big horse. My main worry for Three Stripe Life is that he'll handle the occasion and handle the track and the early part of a champion bumper with the helter-skelter. They jump off and they charge up the straight the first time into that first bend, and it can, he only has one run, and it just could knock him out of sync maybe. But if he does everything right in that first half a mile, I think he's a horse that could run a really, really big race, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how he does run.
And there's a horse that came out of our festival sale last year. I'm not sure he'll run on the bumper, but I think he could be something a bit special. Hollow Games.
Yeah, Hollow Games. Another beautiful horse came out of James Doyle's. Won his point to point, like by 20 lengths in the same track that Bob Ollinger won in Tortulla down in Thurles. This is a real horse for jumping next year. Staying. He's won 2 bumpers. I thought Leopardstown the last day. Again, people were humming and hawing about the form of his race, but since Aubrey McMahon's horse for Willie Mullins has come out, and he's won two hurdles since that. So, and Hollow Games, I thought he won very, very cosily that day. He's going to be a lovely, lovely horse going forward. Not sure where he runs, but he's definitely a horse to keep on your side going forward over jumps.
And Peter Vaughan's Moanmore Stables and Ergamine, they've Jerry Colombe, who's caught the eye as well. Can you put structure to these horses? Every one of them looks exceptional. Where would you side with your best novice hurdler next year? Because they all look a bit special.
Yeah, but that's what you need coming through. You need these novices coming through, these good pointers to bumper horses to novice hurdlers. And, I'm very, very fortunate that I'm in a position to be able to sit on some of these. They're getting bought by some really, really good owners who are sticking their chest out and putting their neck on the block by buying these good pointers. And I don't know, Jerry Colombe as another one, like that performance in Fairy House the last day in Naas, he did what he had to do. He won, and he won very, very easily. And as I say, a little bit like Monkfish, these horses are bought to progress into the future over jumps. Let it be whatever trip they're going to do, but they're bought to fill out into their frame and to do their job over jumps. And all these horses that we mentioned are definitely going to do that.
Richard, which way are you siding with then? Having mentioned all those good horses, I'm Sir Gerhard, Jamie Codd's clearly Sir Gerhard as well. That's 2 of us taking on Kilcrutt. I think from my point of view, I just feared, I know what Jamie's saying, but I think Sir Gerhard has more substance to his form, whereas Kilcrutt did this one wow display, and I'm just not trusting that going into a race such as the Champion Bumper. Which way are you falling?
Agree exactly. Willie's comments would appreciate it. They're the same with Kilcrutt. He was a little bit surprised that Patrick chose him. Patrick wrote an article in the Racing Post afterwards where he felt there was a moment in the race he wasn't sure. He could be an exceptional talent. He certainly looked like it, but you'd love to see him back it up in a standard sort of a race. He was still beaten in a Clonmel bumper, and that's sort of niggling away at you. Sir Gerhard, the Holdens produced him to win his point to point impressively. Everyone thought he was good, and he's done nothing but confirm that time and time. And for Jamie to say he might turn up in a champion hurdle, I don't need to hear any more. That's good enough to win a champion bumper.
Also, I think this year possibly with no crowds there, the atmosphere is going to be taken out of it. Sir Gerhard would definitely handle it better. He came through our sales ring at Cheltenham, you know, and that's a big day out for any young horse. Whereas Kilcrush was a homebred, you know, so it's without a crowd. I would definitely say it'll play into Kilcrush's favour, not having that buzz, that getting G'd up before the race and that. So that's another positive for Kilcrush. But I think Sir Gerhard is an exceptional horse, and I hope he can show his true colours now in the champion bumper.
Love it. That's 3 votes for Sir Gerhard. You viewers, what more do you need? You know, 2 legends of the game and 1 chancer, basically, all voting for Sir Gerhard. Let's move on to the Marsh Novices Chase, which will be a highlight of the week for many because it's the moment we get to see Envoy Allen put all what we've had to endure over the last few weeks behind you. Forget about it all. Forget about the politics. Forget about all the stress of the last year. Just enjoy this, because enjoy this horse. He's 1 in a million for me, and I cannot wait. And Jamie, for me, that tracker shot of him on his last run, was it, where the tracker shot saw him coming down to the last fence, ping the last fence, and then just release like an inch of rain. I mean, we shouldn't call horses machines because they're not machines, Jamie. But this guy, I mean, he's as close to one, isn't he?
No, this is not a machine. This is an aeroplane. He as close to a horse with wings as you're ever going to get. He's brilliant. You know, he's beautiful to look at. His temperament early doors now. You know, he can be, when he's not getting his own way, he can be, you know, he can be strong on the gallops. Keith Donoghue has done a fantastic job with him over the last couple of years. And I'd say, you know, not to a few people's eyes, when I was riding him in bumpers, it was a case of the first half a mile going well for the horse, because I always was conscious of him doing too much. He's a forward going horse. He loves getting on with it. But I was always conscious in his bumpers that the first half a mile had to go well for him. And, you know, in Leopardstown, I kind of sat him in, gave him a bit of room. He's a big horse. He's 17 hands. Same in the champion bumper. Once I got into a rhythm down the back straight, I was able to do what I wanted to do. But he really has grown up since then. His hurdles, he's been flawless over hurdles. And just to see him chasing now, I don't think I've ever seen a horse jump. We were on about Monkfish before. He's very, very good. But to me, Envoy Allen over a fence is just pure poetry in motion. He's very fixed on his jumps. If you watch him, even down over the last couple of fences in Down Royal, and also in Punchestown, his last run, just down over the last, they seem to be really trapping, and his eyes are on the fence, and he's able to shorten. He's an incredible mind for it. Don't think he ever knocked a hurdle over when he ran over hurdles last year. He's just agility. I can't say enough about this horse. I just love him.
Can I just ask you, Jamie, then on that note, then just so we get a real sort of insight into the people who know him best, because I was speaking to Barry Geraghty about him, and he had, I think, been lucky enough to ride him at home, and he said the most surprising thing about him is he is electric off the aid. And then you see that in his race. As soon as Jack Kennedy just squeezes him or lets out an inch of rain, he's gone. How rare is that from a jockey's point of view, to have that real electric feel underneath you, whether it's in a bumper, a hurdle race, and now chasing? Is that a real rarity?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Like good horses come along every now and again. And, you know, the Hurricane Flies, the Altiors, the Envoy Allens, you know, these are the Honeysuckles. These are proper horses, and like they come along, but it's so hard to find them. It really is. And you know, I just, like you, I think just sit back, enjoy him, and I just can't wait to see him. And I really hope that he goes on, and he does what we all thought he could do, and potentially, win a Gold Cup or something like that. And yeah, really looking forward to seeing him again.
Yeah, me too. And it's brilliant to hear you so passionate about him, knowing him so well and the connections behind him. Richard, he cost 400,000 at the sales, and next best in the betting, if you take out the horses who are unlikely to run, is Chamblou, who costs 13,000 at the sales. So we've got two different barometers there in terms of what you can pay for a horse, but Chamblou's connections are in there fighting in the Marsh Novices Chase, but I think they'll just be following home Envoy Allen, won't they?
Yeah, I do remember the Slattery's telling me in Tortola that Chamblou was a proper one. He won about a length and a half that day, and he didn't stand out as wow, but he looked a good solid horse. But they've been proven right as yet again, and he looks very solid. I don't know where Chantry House goes. At 10-1, he very rarely lets you down. He's 5 from 7. The only time he was out of the 3, I think Chantry House, he was beaten 11 lengths by Shishkin, I think, last year. He was third behind Fusel Raffles. He just looks one maybe at 10-1. But to be honest, I remember Envoy winning the champion bumper, and we went back to the house that night. And I said to Jamie, there was a few strides there. I thought Blue Sari was going to get you. And Jamie looked at me as if to say, what race were you watching? Like, I was always in control. And it's amazing the feel he had got from the horse versus the race that I thought I had watched. It looked like Blue Sari was catching him. And Jamie thought, look, when he got to my boot, I had so much left to give. Now, as a punter or an interested onlooker, you think, we're in trouble here. I actually don't believe there's a race next week that if Envoy ran in, he wouldn't win. I think his jumping is so good, he'd win the champion hurdle. I think his jumping is so good and his class is so much that he'd win the Gold Cup, particularly the year that's in it. He'll definitely win the Marsh Novice Chase. He'd absolutely eat them in the cross country. I can't see what he wouldn't win. And it's just a shame that Cheltenham don't allow them to run every single day. I think he'd go through the 4 big ones. This is the best we've seen. I didn't see Arkle, but I saw Envoy, and Walter Connors has picked up a champion hurdler in Espoir Dallin. He's picked up an absolute champion in Envoy.
Bold statements left, right and centre on this show, but who are we to argue, because he's done nothing to suggest otherwise, essentially. And the man that bought Envoy Allen at the Cheltenham February sale back in 2018 is Tom Malone, and Richard was lucky enough to catch up with him earlier.
I'm joined by Tom Malone. Tom Malone, former pony racing rider, amateur rider, professional rider, presenter of the Leicesters, leading point-to-point owner and trainer, former point-to-point commentator, and current leading bloodstock agent. And here we are on the cusp of Cheltenham 2021, and you've quite a few candidates running for you, and we're going to begin at the top. Envoy Len, look, he's never been beaten. Everybody admits that he's not just so far the perfect racehorse because he's never been beaten, but he looks the perfect racehorse. Tell us where Envoy Len began. Where did your story with Envoy Len begin?
Ballynabula, that's where it started. I had bought a horse called Danny Kerwin, who'd won in Lisrona by a furlong. I bought him off Pat Doyle. And he said, this is such a good horse. He said, I bought his brother on the strength of it. And I said, okay. And he's going to run in a 4-year-old maiden, Ballynabula, in 3 weeks' time. And I went, lovely. Okay, I'll be there. And then I heard a few more stories about this Ballynabula 4-year-old maiden. And I was thinking, man alive, there are some jet airplanes going to crash this day because they can't all win. So I got there that Sunday, and Appreciated was the horse I went to buy. He was the horse. He's Danny Kerwin's half-brother. And I arrived in the field to buy him that day, and Envoy Allen destroyed them. And the stupidest thing I done that day was not actually take Appreciate as well. But you have a 6-runner race. How am I going to convince myself that there's 2 Cheltenham winners in one 6-year-old, 4-year-old maiden? But I was happy to take Envoy Allen. I've stood in a lot of fields watching pointers. That was as impressive I'd seen. That horse, literally, he just lay on his neck and he just picked up again. He actually got in under the last and picked up after it. And there were lovely animals in that race, well, which it appeared there was. And that's where it started. I got in touch with Cheveley Park and I asked him, could I buy it for them? And we went through what it might cost. And yeah, he went to Cheltenham and the rest is history.
But that's a huge part, and you've glossed over it a little bit. You've seen the horse, but of course we all heard about this horse that had won in Ballynabula, and every agent is trying to get an owner to land on it. So your job when you've seen him is, great, I've seen him, but I have to find somebody now who's prepared to buy into what I've seen.
Yeah. Well, I suppose that comes down to, your sales, the way you can sell a horse, and people to believe in you. And Cheveley, thank God, said, "Okay, Tom, we'll let you have your head and go and buy him." And it's proven now that all the ingredients were there. The right owner ended up having them, and he's gone on to be the champion that we all know he is now.
How much of a kick does it give you as an agent to watch his progression?
Well, it's amazing. But unfortunately, I hope I don't sound wrong in saying this, that he's doing his job. I now need to find the next one. I mean, to me, I have a small part to play in this. And then the trainer and the owner get the enjoyment out of it. And the beauty about me is that when I go back to them owners again to say, I have found another good horse. But the one thing you will never hear me saying is, I have found another on Violin, because I may never buy another one like him. He is different class, he is.
So is he our Cheltenham banker next week?
I think so, yes.
Can anything beat him on his game?
Himself.
Okay.
The opposition can't beat him.
So
if the horse turns up that we know, he wins. Because nothing wants to take him on.
Well, let's follow that through, because already, bizarrely as our industry works, we're already on to Cheltenham 2022, because we've assumed Monkfish is going to win. We've assumed Envoyline is going to win. We've assumed they're going to turn up in Cheltenham in the Gold Cup next year. Now, this is a Cheltenham preview and a half. We're 53 weeks out. Where's your money?
Well, heart ruling heads. I don't know. Until the horse is beaten, nothing can beat him.
Fair comment. Fair comment. You have another leading Cheltenham candidate, Brave Man's Game.
Mm-hmm.
Was the buying of him a brave man's game?
It definitely was, because I know deep down that Cormac Doyle, as much as he said, oh, he's the right one and he's a good horse, and this thing rubbered down the straight. It literally took off like it had wings. And then when I seen him at the sales, he's 16.3 and a most beautiful animal by an unproven stallion at the time in Brave Mansonian, and an adequate pedigree without being flash. And yes, it was a fairly push the boat out moment, but I've made decisions like that in Cheltenham's at the Cheltenham sales in the past, and they've worked in my favour. And I always think, if you're not confident about the horse, you shouldn't be buying him. You're either confidently right or confidently wrong, one or the other.
Do you always have an order when you buy a horse?
Most certainly not, which is the most brutally stupid thing I do in my life. But I don't feel that I could work any other way. I don't always have it, but I made a few decisions. Slade House was another one 3 years ago. He's another example. I stood in the ring and no trainer, none of my trainers, they were all standing behind me. None of them were putting their hands up. So I said, well, I'll put my hand up. He's my horse. And then as I was signing the docket, I turned around and said, right, which one of you three is having him? And as quick as a flash, Colin Tizard and Joe Tizard said, we will. And that's how it happened. And on that moment, if I'd have left him to someone else, I would not have had grade one winning horse. I would have not made my commission for the year on the horse. And I most certainly would be more annoyed that I knew he was a good one and I'd let someone else have him. And if you don't, I just couldn't work any other way. If I do not buy the horse I want, I don't want to do it.
And with Brave Man's Game, because we've heard from John Dance, who said he dropped out midway through the bidding process and said, look, I valued the horse. He's a very nice horse, but maybe more than I was prepared to go. So when the hammer fell on Brave Man's Game, the owner on the race card was Tom Malone, perhaps Paul Nicholls, if he could be persuaded.
Well,
Brave Man's Game, Tom.
It was, but it was the right Brave Man's Game, wasn't it? And again, if I can't show confidence, my job is to put all the dots together so that the decision making for Paul Nicholls is easy. His job is then to train him to perfection to do what he has done now. He's arriving on short price he's a grade one winner, and he's arriving on short price for one of the Cheltenham Festival races. So I've done my job and now he's doing his job. And if you don't go there and have everything ticked to say he is the right one, let's buy him, I don't see why we would be buying him in the first place.
Absolutely, and he's with the right man to deliver. Can he win?
He can definitely win. Would I say that Gallier de Menil's form is stronger? It's possibly a bit stronger, but Brave Man's Game has come out this year and he's not been beaten. So until he is again, I think he is a very, very talented animal, very talented. He's so slick to jump.
And of course, you've bought those with form, but one in the bumper, and Paul's had a good year with bumper horses, is Shearer, who you bought from the Derby sale, a Frank Motherway graduate from the fall sale, from the November fall sale, then Peel Hall, Wilkinses for 150,000. Why him? Why did you like him?
He had a pedigree to die for, and he was a beautiful animal. Like, he stood out like a sore thumb. He's what I like to buy. All Paul's bumper winners and novice hurdler winner, we started out a different process because it was getting very difficult to buy these 400 grand horses every time, and the owners weren't willing to go that road. We had to step back to go forward again. So we started buying, decent quality stores with pedigrees and beautiful animals, and that is bearing fruit now, because all the bumper winners we're having and the maiden hurdle winners, they've come from the Derby sales and your store sales, and now they're following through. So we should have some beautiful, beautiful racehorses in the coming years.
What's the one you'd like to take out of the bumper if you could, that you didn't have to beat?
Well, it's a funny story, and Tony Mullins will tell you it along the way. He said I was the only one to bid on Kilcrut. After Clonmel, he told me how good the horse was. And I said, Tony, I'm in no win. And I like Tony, we get on very well. He's a good friend of mine. He said, I'm telling you, Tom, this is the best I've ever had. And I said, well, that's grand, but I'm in a no-win situation. If I buy him and he doesn't do it, what were you doing buying one? Sure, if it's not any good, Willie would have bought it. And so I couldn't really win. So I bid him a nice six-figure sum, and he wanted a larger six-figure sum. And unfortunately, we couldn't get there. And his mum owned half it with Tony. And I think she got her arm around Willie's neck and said, you must buy my horse. And that's where it ended up. And fair play to them. It was very, very impressive. It was very impressive at Epperson.
I'm sure she put her arm around his shoulder, but I know what you mean, Tom. I think I know what your next answer will be with your heart, but what does your head say for the Cheltenham Gold Cup?
It's a very tough one, because Alboom Photo reminds me very much of a very good horse that won 3 races at Cheltenham. And if I asked you to name 20 good horses that won 3 races, you wouldn't mention his name. And he's a horse called Bobsworth. And he reminds me so much of him that he just hasn't grabbed the imagination of the public. But he's now won 2 Gold Cups. You'd be hard-pressed to see him being beaten given the preparation he's been given. It's a preparation that's worked twice, and why won't it work again? I was very, very impressed with Champ. I was ultra impressed with Champ over that trip. I don't think many of them.
You were ultra impressed with him over that trip, but a Plutar is a 2 mile 1 winner. If you go back through the years, War of Attrition, 2 mile proven, Arkle winning, Kicking King, Best Mate, Supreme Novice. I'm not in any way taking away from Champ, but is that not what he needs to be doing?
Yeah, it is, but it's probably something you weren't expecting to see either. So it actually gave him more of a live chance, because he has the class now to be able to cruise. Like last year, he came from an uncompromising position to get up, and his jumping let him down a lot last year. He jumped pretty good the other day, and it may have worked in his favour. It's a very open Gold Cup. You can make a case for a lot of horses. And my own heart says, well, it does. I mean, he has as big a chance as anything of being placed.
Native River.
He's 11-year-old that's actually risen 4 pounds again. Most of them decline in their ratings. He's actually decided, no, I'll give you another run for your money, and he's gone up. So they'll all know they've had a race to pass him, and then it'll be up to that. If they are classier and younger and better, well, that's how it'll happen. But there's not too many horses I've bought that are millionaires. He's won a Hennessy, a Denman 3 times. He's a phenomenal animal. So he ain't out till he's out.
And you bought him having not won his point to point.
He finished third. He finished third in Drumahan. And it was actually, did he unseat? I think he unseated, actually. He was going to finish third. He was going to finish third and unseated. He was down. He pulled out of a cattle shed down in Cork to me, but he was beautiful. He was. And funnily enough, Brocade Racing had never ever had a chestnut horse in their life. And they lived 5 minutes from me. And when I said to them, come and see this, I bought a beautiful horse, he's chestnut. And they said, oh, but because they were 5 minutes away, they said, oh, look, we'll go down there and we'll just go through the motions. And we'll just say, look, we don't want it. So they came down and they seen him moving, and they went away for an hour and they came back. So we don't want to buy a chestnut horse, but we'll buy this one. And now they've got about 10 chestnut horses and 2 grades.
So just to be clear, you bought Native River, you brought him to your yard, and he was effectively without owner for a while.
Yeah.
A Cheltenham Gold Cup winner, standing in your yard waiting for someone to say, I'll have him.
Yeah.
Can happen.
It can, definitely. And the beauty is, thankfully, they live 3 miles from me. And whenever the day comes he retires, he's retiring at mine.
Ah, fantastic. Great. Hopefully that's not too
Not
soon.
too, yeah.
A few more miles left on the clock. Tom, thank you very much. It's been a fascinating A to Z of your career so far. We wish you the very best of luck next week at the festival. Where will you watch it?
I will watch it from home. It's probably the only time, because we can't go this year, I can actually relax and be at home and watch it. It would be lovely to watch it, Will. And I won't have to be consoling owners when they run bad then either. So we'll all have a nicer week.
If there's one thing you won't be next week, it's relaxed, Tom. I've seen you watch a race, so that won't happen. But thank you for your time, and look, we'll see you at sales before too long. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Great to hear from Tom Malone there. He's a real character of the bloodstock world, regular around the sales ring. Lots of people out there watching this will know Tom Malone, but lots of you will not have known a good few of those stories he's just told there. It's just fascinating to hear the backstories of some of these horses, where they ended up, how they got to where they are now. It's the things that you can't read on the Racing Post that many journalists don't pick up on, and that's why this Cheltenham Festival preview is just that little bit different. Let's get rocking and rolling through a few more races then. We've talked about lots of short priced horses in these championship races, these grade ones. A place where we're not getting such a short price favourite, in fact it's a way more open market, is the Ryanair Chase. Richard, I'm going to come to you for this. Where is the pin falling in this? Because you've got a horse who's won it before. You've got Fakir de Dairies, who ran so well when we last saw him at Leopardstown. He's my selection here at 8-1. But the favourite is Allaho at 5-1, who for me, given the vibes we've had from him from the yard, he's, I don't know if he's been a touch disappointing, dare I say. Where are you falling for this?
I am falling on St. Calvados. Harry Whittington, winner early in the week with last year, a horse he picked up at last year's festival sale, Doc Picked Me. Just touched off in the race last year, so he has course and distance form. They stepped him up in trip, so he's only beaten 8 lengths in the King George behind Frodon, and he unseated behind Native River, so put a line through that. So last runs are second beaten a neck to Min in this race last year, 4th beaten 8 lengths by Frodon in the King George, back over course and distance. Harry Whittington's yard is in form. St. Calvados is going to win the Ryanair.
There you go, simple as. Jamie, can you be as succinct as well, please? Who wins the Ryanair?
I really like another one of Kim Bailey's, Imperial Aurora. Really like him. I think this is going to be a funny race. Willie's 3 horses, they all race with the pace. Min, Allaho and Melon. Like you're on about like an Arkle or a Champion Chase. This could be a real good gallop at the front end. And I think David Bass will go forward on an Imperial Aura as well. He won the Novices handicap there last year, and I think he's an improving horse. And yeah, I fancy this lad now strongly.
Very good, very good. Imperial Aura is currently 13-2. Fakir de Dairies for me at 8-1, and St. Calvados at 9-1 for Richard. Let's move on to the Stayers Hurdle. I'm going to stick with you, Jamie. This is a division that's fascinated me throughout the year because, of course, we've had these early clashes between the youngster in Time Hill and then the proven sort of fan favourite in Paisley Park. I know there's other horses in there as well, but Jamie, for me, I'm siding with Paisley Park, and I'm putting my faith with Emma Lavelle that they've got him right back on track. Obviously, we saw him win last time out, but he needs to deliver again at the festival. Which way are you falling? I fear that you're going to give me an Irish horse here.
I feel that the English are very, very strong here. And I really like Philip Hobbs's horse, Time Hill. Just a little bit younger than Paisley Park. There was a head bob between them in Ascot on their latest run, and I just feel that the run from the Albert Bartlett last year, that he's going to be the improving horse, and he is going to give Paisley Park most to do. I do feel that Flooring Porter is probably not getting the kind of the vibes he should be getting. He's a good horse. He's only 6. He done everything at Christmas there in the Stayers division here in Ireland. He was very, very good. And the only worry I'd have for him on the new course in Cheltenham, the run from the second last to the last, it's a long, long way, and to get racing a long way out. And Flooring Porter in Leopardstown made the running, and I'm just not sure if they drop him in a little bit and he settles. I think the horse has a great chance. But if he ends up getting on the front end too much in this race, he could be there in front halfway down to the last, and he could tie up. So, but I really, really like Time Hill.
Time Hill for you. Flooring Porter as a potential bigger priced horse, maybe to place, just to keep an eye on. Paisley Park for me. Richard, one of the things that has been touted as a bit of a concern for Time Hill is he is a horse who travels a little bit more on the bridle than you might like in a race like the Stayers Hurdle. Whereas Paisley Park, as we've seen time and again with him, he sort of switches off and takes a bit of rousting along. But of course, that's what you want in a Stayers Hurdler. Are you with me? Are you with Jamie, or a horse at a bigger price, please?
No, Time Hill for me as well. His defeats are 2 lengths Envoy Alen and a length and a half last year Monkfish, and we've heard what we all think of those two now. I think Time Hill stands out in this race. Funny, I think Jamie's been reading my notes, because I was very taken by Flooring Porter at Leopardstown as well. He jumped the last and he jinked. He had a little bit in the tank. His ears pricked at a photographer about 8 strides from the line. Sean Murphy bred him for a syndicate in Galway to be a great story if he could win. And I actually think for the likes of him, having no crowd might just help him to settle and do things the way he should. I don't know if the storyteller goes in this as well. Now, he's behind Flooring Porter, so the logic would be that Flooring Porter should beat him again. But the storyteller's in the form of his life. Jamie, will he go here, or Kemboy even?
Yeah, no, I think Kemboy goes for the Gold Cup, but I think he will go for this race.
With the storyteller?
Yeah, the storyteller. I think he will go for this race. Keith gets on fantastic with him, and I think it's the way he's been ridden. He's a horse that's never been out of the money. Every day he goes, he turns up. He got his grade 1 in Down Royal before Christmas in the James Nicholson, and his runs this year, back behind Flooring Porter in the hurdle, and then he came back and was second behind Kemboy in the big chase at the Dublin Racing Festival. So he's just been an amazing horse for connections, and definitely, if he runs in this, he's got a great chance of being in the money.
Storyteller at a bigger price, 2 votes for Time Hill, and I'm sticking with the old boy, Paisley Park for me. Let's rattle on to the Triumph Hurdle. Jamie, I want to stick with you for this, because really interesting market. Obviously, at the moment now, Tritonic is at the top of the betting as the favourite at 9-4 currently, and then Zanahiyr has drifted out to 5-2. Now, I just find this interesting because for me, Zanahiyr has been the Triumph horse all the way through. Right from way before Christmas, it's all been about Zanahiyr. Other horses have put their hat in the ring, but none of them have quite delivered the performance of Zanahiyr. And then Tritonic came along in the Adonis and bang into the, I think a lot of good vibes after the race. Alan King talking about the horse very positively, and now he finds himself at the top of the market, having gone in above Zanahiyr. Do you think that's right, or are you sticking with the Irish horse? Where are you going here?
Yeah, look, at Zanahiyr has been really, really good this year. Won his maiden hurdle in Ballinrobe and has progressed quite incredibly all over the winter. And I thought his performance in Fairyhouse was top of the range. Now, it really, really was. He stamped his authority all over that race, and yeah, look at he's going there with a very, very good chance. Quilixios is a different model. He's a little bit more behind the bridle, and he seems to relax, and he jumps very, very well. So you'd imagine that the race, the Triumph race, will actually suit his way of racing. You know, because he is a little bit behind the bridle. But I really, really like Xander here. I just think he's very professional in what he does. He relaxes as well. He jumps very, very nimble. And I've been very, very impressed with him. Tritonic, I was speaking to Adrian Heskin a couple of weeks before. He won he won the last day, and Adrian just thinks the world of this lad. If his jumping holds up, this horse has a great chance. He has speed, and he's got a great chance. 9-4, look at 9-4, 5-2 Xander here. You know, it looks to be between those top kind of four in the market. I really like Adagio of David Pipes as well. I think he's progressed throughout the year. They started to ride him a little bit differently, and I'd love to see David and those connections have a big winner.
So you're sticking with Xana here, Team Ireland, as we would expect. I am sticking with Tritonic and putting my faith in Alan King to pull off another win in this race. Richard, which way are you going?
Do I have the casting vote, Vanessa?
Yes, please.
I've been absolutely fascinated in speaking to Tom and to Anthony Bromley. You know, you can understate the role of the agent and how they have to, you know, Tom had to go out on a limb and buy horses he likes. And for Anthony Bromley and Alan King to follow the route of the breeze ups, and they bought Tritonic from the Guineas breeze up from Tally-Ho for 55,000. I think it showed a real vision, if you like, on both of their behalf, because buying form flat horses for jumping has changed. It's actually helped the point-to-point market because the form flat horse has been a little bit more difficult to acquire for the national hunt person. So for them to spot the opportunity, we'll call it, in the breeze up market, they've now ended up with Tritonic, who's rated 99 on the flat, which would have absolutely justified their investment. And I think they will also win the Triumph Hurdle with him. And Alan King, being as nimble as he is with his horses, he could come back to Royal Ascot and run him in something. I think there's great logic behind what they've done. I think he's been a great buy, and I think there's a lot more to come from him. So on this occasion, the casting vote goes with Tritonic.
Come on. I'm very nervous there's going to be an almost whitewash of Irish winners at the Cheltenham Festival this time around. So every time there's even a vote for a British trained horse, I'm just celebrating. But you mentioned...
Well, Vanessa, we've just done St. Calvados, Dime Hill, Tritonic. Us Irish, I'm not sure we get a look in. We won't have the flag out before Friday by the way things are going here.
Yeah, okay. Well, last few races, but those shorties earlier on, honestly, I can't find a hole to pick in them. But look, you mentioned there, Richard, the interview when you spoke to Anthony Bromley earlier. He's the man who brought Tritonic back at that Guineas breeze up sale. Let's hear what he had to say now.
Probably since about October in Ireland, from Dufflecoat through to French's Eels, Anahir, Quilixios, we were deciding which one we were going to win the Triumph Hurdle with, because it really was down to who we would prefer to lift the trophy. And then arrived Tritonic, a breeze up purchase from Tally-Ho for Alan King, obviously, and the McNeils and Ian Dale. It looks like a big ask for us to take it back off him. We were worrying about ourselves too much.
Yeah, he did pop up. I mean, we've known about him and all winter as well.
Well, we didn't.
But you hadn't realised he was, because there was one talk at one stage after Royal Ascot. It wasn't definite he was going to be going hurdling, but they gave him a bit of a break, and Alan wanted to get 2 runs into him for the experience before Cheltenham, and it was quite well documented. He was a bit undercooked for the Ascot race. And actually that showed, because when he went to Kent the next time, he beat the second by a lot easier margin, and would come on. And Kingy said he'll come on more than a stone for that run at Ascot, and he did do that at Kempton. He did it on quicker ground, but he's gone in soft. He's got pace. He's not, he looked a stayer when he won at Ascot because he grounded out, but he looked pacey a horse at Kempton. He's got loads of assets in his weaponry there, in the armoury. Everything's gone well with the preparation, and look, he's rated 99 on the flat. He's a listed horse, and possibly a bit better than that. I think there's improvement to come in him on the flat this year as well when they go back on the flat. He's by See the Moon, and what a sire he's proving to be. He's also got Old Mankind in the Arkle as well. I mean, I don't think Kirsten Rosen would be happy me promoting See the Moon as a jump stallion, but what a sire he is. And I think Tritonics goes there with a great chance to give Max McNeil his first Cheltenham Festival winner. Amazing to think that a big owner like that hasn't had a festival winner, but it'll be like the gates will open. You're probably going to get 2 or 3 this week. You break the duck and then get loads or something, because he's got a few other nice horses to run. So no, I wouldn't swap Tritonic for anything, although I do get the feeling that Gordon thinks that Zanahiyr is the best one of all those good ones he's got, and you have to respect that big time.
Great to hear from Anthony Bromley again, and plenty of confidence behind Tritonic, and that's 2 votes for Tritonic and 1 for Zanahiyr. Let's move on to the Albert Bartlett. Just 2 races left to go in this brilliant preview, Cheltenham Festival preview evening. Albert Bartlett, in comparison to the other novice hurdle events, is a much more wide open affair. Statler is currently the 11-2 favourite, and then in behind Statler you've got Fakira, Torygraph and Barbados Bucks, all of which, Richard, are horses that have graduated out of the Derby sale. This is a very wide open race. I have ended up falling on 3 under through 5 at a much bigger price at around 16-1, just the horse. I think we're going to see a bit of a turn up in this race. It's provided a few surprises in the past, and I think we might see another surprise this year. What's your reckoning?
Yeah, look, it often is the case where, coming from our perspective, that you're following all your Derby sale graduates, just hoping one of them can win. And this is exactly that. You're 3 under through 5, who is bidding to give the McNeils a winner, but I think they have a strong hand this week. Torygraph, another graduate of Peter Vaughan's, who obviously had an Ergamine earlier. You'd love to see him come out on top. Barbados Bucks, Richard Black bought him. Paul Nicholls was keen enough on his chances. He bought him from the Horrors, actually. He looks a smart horse. I think Statler, actually, it'd be nice to see Ronnie Bartlett, who puts up the money every year, to lift it once. Cyril O'Hara bred him. He bred Monkfish. And it's nice to watch these sort of bloodstock connections where the breeder or the producer, they're following the journey of the horse too. And when we sell them, we do exactly the same. It's wide open. Don't have a strong view here. On balance, it'd be nice to see Ronnie Bartlett come out on top. He's a real good supporter of the game with Statler, but no strong view on this one, I'm afraid.
Good to hear. Just in terms of when you don't have a strong view, don't put up a bet. I agree with that. Jamie, which way are you falling in this race? Last year, obviously, it provided 2 stars in Monkfish and Time Hill, but in the past, it has been a bit of a war of attrition. What do you think what needs to sort of step up to win this?
Yeah, look, there's loads, as Richard has said, there's loads here that you can go down through. Statler, a worthy favourite. Fakira seems to be doing all his best work at the end of his races. You'd imagine to step up and trip and bit of nice ground, and is going to suit that horse. Torygraph is improving, but Barbados Bucks is the one for me that I can see improving way more. His pedigree suggests he's in the big Bucks pedigree with connections, with the same connections, and I think this horse will win this race. I think he's Paul Nicholls' probably best chance of a winner this week, to be honest. And I think that Barbados Bucks is the one to side with here.
God, taking me on, Jamie. It's funny you say that, because Barbados Bucks has had quite a lot of positive chat, I think, in the build-up, and now you're giving him a positive nod as well. And then when I was down at Paul Nichols's, obviously 5 under through 5 is in the same race, and he was just saying that, I mean, we'll catch up with Paul actually later in a second, because he's our last interview of this show, but he's just saying there's very little between them with what they show at home, and they do have very similar profiles. So yeah, I mean, you're siding with Barbados Bucks, and I can completely see why. Me, 3 under through 5, and Richard, a no bet race at this stage. He'll probably change his mind come Friday. Let's move on to the Gold Cup before we throw in a few. We'll wrap up this by giving you a few, hopefully, handicap pokes and some left field options as well. But let's focus our attention on the big race of the week, the Gold Cup. Album Photo coming back for a 3rd win in the race. It was really interesting hearing what Tom Malone was saying earlier, wasn't it? Just about the fact that this horse hasn't quite caught the imagination of the public just yet. I'm not entirely sure why. When you compare his profile to that of Best Mates, it's not dissimilar. Yet Album Photo, just doesn't have the fan club I feel like he deserves. Champ comes into this having won the RSA last year, and then this bizarre, unique preparation over the 2 miles. And then Native River, the old boy, Frodon. There really is something in there for everyone. Richard, which way are you falling in the Gold Cup?
I actually sat down with one race this morning to see if I can take on Album Photo, and I did. Album Photo's last few runs, we have to, just for the purposes of form, we're going to strip out Cheltenham Gold Cup. We're just going to look at his form. The 2 runs at Tramore, if he to do a good piece of work in Willie's instead of going to Tramore, I think he probably would have taken more out of himself. And even Willie admitted that in Tramore, that he didn't get enough of a blow into him, and he's going to have to be hard running. So I've decided they don't count, just for the purposes of getting where we need to get to. So he's beaten Santini and Neck and Annabelle Fly 2 lengths, and been beaten 2 lengths by Kemboy on the other 3 runs, because the Tramore runs were exhibitional, great for Tramore to see him. So on Neck Santini, 2.5 lengths Annabelle Fly, and beaten by Kemboy 2 lengths, tells me he's not bulletproof. He's not just the next coming, albeit he could be a 3 times Gold Cup winner. And how do you knock that? Champ, he's too short priced on the back of his run over 2 mile. Plutar, I think he could be the winner, but ultimately it was an unusual, a bit like Kilcruck's form. It was a slightly unusually run race, and I'd love to see it backed up to really go all chips in on him. Manila Indoor, I really thought he was going to be the answer, and he disappointed me the last day. Santini are lacking a little bit of class, I think, to win, but he was only beaten a Neck last year. My each way bet's definitely Frodon and Native River. I think both of them will give a big account of themselves. But are you ready for what's going to win the Gold Cup?
I'm ready.
Royal Pagile. Royal Pagile is going to win.
Jamie, he's tipped up a horse that should be running in your race, shouldn't he?
Yeah, I think you're way off the mark here, Richard. But anyway,
that'll make me happier if he wins, Jamie.
I'll take your bet. What price is he?
He's 14s roughly, 14 to 1.
You can have 140 to 1.
Go on, Jamie. You've probably tipped up Monkfish. You've tipped up Envoi Lane, Honeysuckle. Go on, give us Album Photo, and it'll be the most earth-shattering Cheltenham preview we've seen. Come on, tell us Album Photo's going to win the Star Gold Cup.
If they all win, I'm right, and you're. That's it. So, I just want to see. I'm a racing fan, and that's what I would love to see Ireland have a 3-time Gold Cup winner in Album Photo, and I think Ireland deserves it. He's a hell of a horse. He's done it the hard way. Last year off a slow gallop, and the first year he done it off a good gallop. I know Richard is going through form. All you can do is win. All you can do is beat what's there on the day, and he's done that. For me, a Plutard is the unknown here. Stepping up in trip seemed to suit him well at Leopardstown at Christmas, and coming in fresh is probably going to be key for this horse. He missed the Dublin Racing Festival. I think that was a brilliant decision out of Henry. I really do. I think this horse is going to be bouncing. He's a previous winner at the festival, jumps well, and he is the one for me that's going to upset Album Photo's chance to go down in the history books. I do actually agree with Richard. I think that a previous Gold Cup winner in Native River will go down fighting, but I just think Album Photo and a Plutard are the 2 standouts here, and I think that they will fight out the finish.
It is a fascinating contest with a Plutard angle is that kind of potential. I mean, I know he's proven himself at a high level at the staying trip, but just in terms of actually being a Gold Cup horse, you're banking on him having a bit more in the locker, and then we're all trying to take on Album Photo. But I'm with you, Jamie. I think for me, Album Photo, head and heart, I'd love to see a 3-time Gold Cup winner, and I think it'd be brilliant for the sport just at the moment in particular. And also I hope that he then might catch a few people's attentions. I think, he deserves a front page headline of the national papers as well as the back page headline. Just before we leave the Cheltenham Gold Cup, Richard, because we were too busy taking the mickey out of you because it's such a terrible, terrible tip, we didn't actually get to understand why you were tipping up Royal Pagile.
Yes, why, Richard? Why?
Process of elimination as much as anything. He's a son of Blue Brazil, who I think Rathbarry have landed on one there. He is Blue Lord going. He nearly won a champion hurdle with Mick Jazz. I think a horse on the way up this year. I honestly believe if Monkfish or Invallen turned up here, they'd be 4 to 6, and I'd back them. I just think that the class that's coming through. I was on a preview of Jane Mangan recently, and she said if Alboom Photo is to win his 3rd Gold Cup, it'll be this year, because next year it will be too strong. And I think the Novices on the way through. I know he's not quite enough, but he's on an upward curve for me. And yeah, look, process of elimination and value always value has to be the value.
He's a handicapper. That's
Great.
a good handicapper, but I'm afraid you need more than a handicapper to win a Gold Cup.
I'm glad you two aren't staying in a house this time around this year. It could have been sparks flying. Well, look, the horse that got a fleeting mention there was, of course, Frodon, a horse who absolutely loves Cheltenham, is in terrific form, won a King George, a horse that keeps on surprising, and he could do anything, and we'd all go, how very Frodon of him, because that's what he does. He just keeps surprising connections and fans alike, and the man who trains Frodon is, of course, Paul Nicholls, who Richard caught up with earlier.
Paul Nicholls, thank you very much for joining us. We're 1 week out from the Cheltenham Festival, and how different has it been for you, the prep this year? A year like no other, I suppose.
No different. I mean, the only thing we're going to obviously miss at Cheltenham is owners and all the fans and all the public being there. But preparation-wise in the racing, no different. You just got to do the same as normal.
Will it affect any of the horses or any of the riders? Do you think positively or negatively not having a crowd, the pressure of the owners? Do you think it'll have an impact at all?
It's bound to affect the odd horse. I mean, the atmosphere isn't the same. Some horses might improve their chances. Do get some horses get a bit of stage fright when they jump that last hurdle, last fence, and imagine the roar up in front of them with both sides of the stands. I can always remember Silvernacca Conti always used to jump the last, and he basically threw away the Gold Cup when he just sort of like hesitated. And it will affect some like him, and others it won't make any difference to.
And of course, in this year's Gold Cup, I think we nearly would hear a roar in the surrounding valleys and dips if Frodon could come up the hill in front. Where are you with him at this point in time?
I'm very happy with him. Great prep. Came out of the King George well. He had a good gallop at Wincanton last week. He needs plenty of grass, so he's going to have a tough week. Doing plenty. He thrives on that, and yeah, very happy with him.
And how do you see the Gold Cup panning out? With if you remove your heart and you leave your head in the Gold Cup, is Alboom Photo the horse to emulate best mate? Can Frodon disappoint Alboom Photo, or is there something else to come in?
Well, look, I think Alboom Photo is one we've all got to beat. He's obviously a class horse, one of the last 2 years. I mean, you could argue last year's form hasn't actually worked out particularly well, but he still keeps on winning. And I think there's a lot of horses behind him. All much of a muchness really, including Frodon. Alboom Photo undoubtedly is the one. I'm just trying to think of some others. Champy obviously won over 2 miles. He's only had the one run, and he's a big step up from the RSA last year. Plus Tard obviously won over Christmas. Then you're talking Frodon. Santini looks a bit one pace really, but well beating the King George. Native River. I mean, Native River is obviously a decent horse. And Native River, in my view, wants ground heavy to be his very best these days. Joe will argue he's probably going any ground, but I think he just from a pace angle and his utter stamina, like it's Sandown, heavy ground will suit him. So the ground's important to him. I think it's quite an open racing behind Alboom Photo.
Looks like it. And a race that's generated much discussion, the Champion Chase with Chacun Poursoir looking as good as he has over with us. Everyone wondering if Altior can come back, but Politolog is last year's winner. Can he reproduce?
Well, he's consistent. He's won the Tingle Creek this year. Ran well at Ascot on ground. It was probably heavy enough for him. I think slightly better ground will suit him. He loves the course. It's amazing. It's his 6th festival, so he's a professional. He'll run his race. So he's got a great chance. Obviously, Chacun Poursoir is obviously looks very, very good, but he's got reproduced that form of Leopardstown at Cheltenham, a track he hasn't run on before. But if he does, he'll be hard to beat.
One of the things this year's festival is not unique in relation to, but we've 3 of last year's leading novice hurdlers coming back for their equivalent chases, Monkfish, Envoy, and of course Shishkin. You have a few in to take them on that might or may not hit man next destination. Yeah. Do they look not unbeatable, but do they look a little daunting, or do you think they're worth a crack to try and take them on?
Well, they're very good horses, obviously. but never be afraid of 1 or 2 at Cheltenham and novice chases. You know, a lot can happen at Cheltenham. It's a unique track. It's completely different. Some of the courses, some of these horses have been running over. Look, I think I'm only taking on Monkfish because I think Hitman's definitely going to go to Aintree. I haven't got one in the Arkle. So next destination, you know, he's got a daunting task, but he's a high-class horse in his own right. He would just like to see plenty of rain and the ground be soft. But you just wouldn't know what was in the locker with him. He's one of those horses who races a little bit behind the bridle, keeps finding and keeps staying. He's a strong stayer, but I think we got it all to do.
And a race you're not known well for, but I think you'll emerge from this year is the Bumper. You've had a right year with Bumper horses. You have Rainy Day Woman, a couple of Derby Sale graduates, Shearer and Gold Bullion. Shearer came from Frank Motherway, and then I think you bought him yourself at the Derby Sale through Peel Hall, and Gold Bullion through Liss House. Where do you see your Bumper team this year? Because it looks strong.
Yeah, they're nice horses. I only think the only one we're going to run is Shearer. I think the filly's going to run. Rainy Day Woman runs at Sandown this weekend in the mare's race. And Gold Bullion's not really ready for Cheltenham. I mean, they're going to be super novice hurdlers next season, and the Cheltenham Bumper's not really a race I'm sort of top prioritised with these horses. But Shearer's ready to go. He's probably the best of them at the moment that's ready, and I wouldn't surprise if he ran a really good race. And just good experience for him for the future. And
what drew you to him when you did buy him?
He's just a great athletic horse. Tom actually bought him for me. We fell in love with his pedigree. He's just a real nice horse, a willing horse. He's just, you know, but most of all, he's got the size and stamp to be a real nice 3-mile chaser one day.
And I see that Ronnie Bartlett is the favourite for the Albert Bartlett, but you have a strong challenger in Barbados Bucks, a Mount Eaton and Richard Black graduate. I think he's one of your, he has my vote.
Yeah, a very nice horse. He races a little bit behind the bridle, loads in the tank. He keeps on winning, keeps improving. He's rated 143 now, which, you know, is high enough. He was very good at Kempton the last day with a £10 penalty, you know, really strong from the back of the last. And yeah, he's in great shape and look forward to running him.
And Paul, Braveman's game, you know, when you make an analogy to Denman, what's going to happen in the press before you say it. You must believe it when you say it.
Well, all I said, he's gone down the Denman route and he's ended up running and winning a Challow, which is what Denman did. And basically, that's the only analogy at the moment. But he's not unlike him in lots of ways. He's a big, strong chasing horse. He's actually got more boot than Denman. Denman was actually never showed much at home, was always quite slow, but always, you know, was very strong stayer and very, very good. But at the same stage of the career, forget what Denman had done after, you know, later on, but after winning a Challow, they're both at the same stage of their career, really. Fancied going into this race. Forget Denman, just concentrate on Braveman's game. He's a lovely horse. He's got loads of scope. He's in good shape. He'll run well and make a lovely chaser next season, God willing.
Won't he just? And this time 2 years ago, he was just about to get an entry for a point-to-point in Lingstown, and you picked him up at the festival stale.
Yeah.
Talk us through how that works, how that happened, how you landed on him. And I believe you were quite brave in landing on him in the first instance.
Well, Tom was mad about him, Tom Malone, as you know, and he kept on to me about, we've got to buy this horse, we've got to buy this horse. And he was always going to need time, and he was never a bumper horse. Last year was just filling in a bit of time, really. And he had a breathing operation in the summer. Just wind was catching him a fraction as a baby, and he strengthened up, and the rest is history, really.
But you can pass over something pretty quickly there. By the end of the evening, you had him sold. But for somebody who has just bought a horse at a considerable amount of money, who's shown huge potential, you still have to go and find somebody for that horse. You really have to believe in Tom. Tom has to believe in the horse, and the owners have to believe in you.
Exactly. It's you know, it has to work along those lines. And Tom was mad from, you know, how enthusiastic Tom is when he likes something. And you know, he'd sell snow to the Eskimos sometimes. And he's very enthusiastic, which rubs off on people. He was a lovely horse. I liked him. The form looked good. But at the end of the day, you know, there's lots of horses like that you really like. How many of them turn out to be champions? Not that many, but you just hope you get lucky. And we've got lucky with this lad. He's turned out to be a lovely horse.
And in terms of Gallard de Manille or Bob Olinger, how do you see that race pan
out? Well, Will is great horse. I like him a lot. He was one I think we liked at the sale when he was bought in France. He's obviously a good horse, keeps improving. And Henry's horse is obviously very good. I thought he was very impressive on his last start. So they're you know, formidable rivals. It's going to be a good race.
Isn't it just? It's going to be a great festival. And Paul Nicholls, we wish you the very best of luck with it and with your Tattersalls graduates. I'm sure you'll add to the 45. Is it 45 winners we're at the moment?
Yeah, I think it is 45. If you're telling me that, yeah, it's a good number. And you know, we'll be trying our best next week to add to that.
And having spent a little bit of time in your company, the only Cheltenham Festival winner that you're interested in is number 46, I'd say, and we wish you well in that regard. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed.
Great to hear from the maestro Paul Nicholls there. He might not be coming into the Cheltenham Festival with his strongest ever team, but he's got some horses who you can make very valid cases for. And knowing Paul Nicholls, he rarely misses. So I think he's one to keep an eye out for. Some of those horses in some of the handicaps, handicap hurdle, the Fred Winter in particular. Do keep an eye out for a few of his runners because they are well worth taking note of. We know that he primes them for this week in March. That nearly brings us to a close because we've rattled through all the big races. So now, boys, it's just over to you to give some special mentions to any other horses you want to throw out there to our viewers, who you're liking, who you're not liking, maybe to take on in some of the handicaps. Which way will I go? Jamie Codd, let's go to you first. Tell us some names to keep an eye out for and in what races.
I look at, there's loads in the handicaps. The handicaps, you have to sort them out really and see where they're going. So, but there's one horse there I really, really like. He's for the McNeils as well, Ascaria 10. He'd probably be in the Ultima or the Browns Advisory. So whichever one of those he runs in. He's a horse I really like. I want to point a point on him. And he has progressed very, very well over fences. And I think the step up and trip to 3 mile, just over 3 mile, will suit him well. And he's going to give Adrian Heskin a big day out.
Ascaria 10 for you, one for the notebook. In he goes into the tracker. Just one line on Tiger Roll, Jamie. Obviously, you're closely connected to his yard. Just in terms of him going to the fair, well, just in terms of him in general, what sort of form is he in?
Yeah, look at Tiger. Tiger is Tiger. He's 11 now. You know, he's still bold and narky and all those things. But look at you'd love to see him finishing off his races a fraction better. You know, even in Navan the last day, he travelled really well. They didn't go overly quick, so he was probably entitled to travel. But I just thought he could have finished off a little bit better. Obviously, the ground was very, very deep and gluey, and he would not like that. And I'd say in order to see Tiger back to his best, the ground would want to be on the real dry side for him. I hope he comes back, and this is probably going to be his last race, I'd imagine, if you know, when he's not going to go for a Grand National. So I'd love to see him come back and do it, and you know, it's Tiger, so anything is possible.
Absolutely, Jamie. I think amid everything else, he's one of the stories of the festival that bizarrely, for a dual Gold Cup winner and a multiple winner at the Cheltenham Festival, it feels like he's slightly going under the radar just because so much other headlines have sort of overshadowed him at this stage. But for me, going into the festival, he is one of the stories of the week. In fact, he might be the story of the week, and that's saying something because of all the other things we've spoken about. But if he won a cross-country chase again, I think there wouldn't be a dry eye in any house across any country, I don't think. Richard, over to you for some left field names, please, either in any of the races we haven't discussed or anything else you want to mention at this stage before we wrap up.
Yeah, look, I think Imperial Alcazar in the Pertemps, Kevin Ross and Imperial Racing gave 42,000 to Ballincarrig for him at the Derby sale, and he won well at Warwick last time. I think he's a big chance. There's a horse ran at Leopardstown at the Dublin Racing Festival. I don't know, Jamie, if you saw it. He's been beaten by Zana here. He's been beaten by Quilixias about 6 or 7 lengths. He runs too keen, but if they go a good gallop, Saint Sam after the race, when they pulled up, the only horse that went anywhere close as far as he did was Monkfish. He went out past the 2 hurdles, past the stands in Leopardstown, and kept going. Now, he runs too keen, so he will need them to go a good gallop. He's Willie's in the Boodles, and he's been mixing it with Zana here and Quilixias, but it was quite something how far he went past the winning post before. I think it was Danny rode him before he got him to pull up. He ran too keen in the race. If something takes him along and he can just spit it out a bit, he took my eye now, as I say, almost more after the race than in the race. But yeah, he's one I'll be keeping an eye on.
Very good. Interesting. Like it a lot. Right. I think that pretty much wraps up proceedings. We're just going to do a nap and a dark horse. I'll go first. The people producing the show didn't even say I had to do this, but I'm just throwing my hat in the ring. My nap is Ellie May in the Mayor's Chase. I just can't see her being beat, and I'm a huge Ellie May fan. And then my dark horse, I think, is Duke de Ginevra, an old Arkle winner, but in the Grand Annual. I think Paul Nicholls will put him in the Grand Annual, and I think they'll have a claiming jockey on him. He'll be near it. Well, he will be top weight in that, but he'll have 3 or 5 claimed off him. And for me, he was a horse who might just be a sneaky one at a bigger price potentially. Duke de Ginevra back in handicap company, and Ellie May as my nap. Jamie Codd, over to you. A nap, please, and potentially a dark horse that you haven't mentioned yet.
Sorry, I thought my dark horse was going to be Ascaria 10, so
that's fine. That's fine. You can roll them into one.
It was him, yeah. And I look at my nap as Envoy Allen.
Good, yeah. Left field, like it a lot. Richard, over to you for a nap and a dark horse, please.
Not sure how dark he is, but Matt Hall on the Potter's horse in the cross country is very, very keen. He was so keen he wouldn't give him a mention when we spoke to him. He's trying to keep it all on the low down. But
he'll hate you, Richard. He'll hate you.
He came out of the virtual national extremely well. Extremely well. He obviously is impressive in the virtual national. So yeah, not sure how dark he is, but that's the one for me. I think if you want to nap this festival, if you want to really nap them, just couple them up until you till you stretch the boundaries. So if it's Envol N for you, are you happy to throw in Monkfish, Honeysuckle, Shishkin and Ergamine, and give yourself a fun week following all the bankers and see how far you can stretch your nap, and let's roll on top of the bankers and watch them winning week and appreciate them throughout the week.
Hey, I wouldn't be averse to that sort of bet, Richard. I think a lot of people will end up leaning that way. And then, of course, when one falls at the last, hearts break across both countries. But hey, that is all the fun of the fair when it comes to the Cheltenham Festival. I cannot wait, honestly, this Cheltenham Festival preview, hearing from those connections in that way, the interviews we've had with the likes of Paul Nicholls, Tom Malone, Anthony Bromley, and of course, John Dance, brilliant insights and really add something. It has been a privilege and a joy, Richard. Thank you very much. Enjoy the week at your end.
Yeah, all set, ready to go. I'll give Jamie an odd WhatsApp just to make sure he feels the love.
Good job, Jamie. Be very different for you, but I hope you can enjoy it from the comfort of your own home all the same. Look, it's been, like I say, a joy and a privilege. That was the Tattersalls Cheltenham preview evening, and I hope you guys at home have enjoyed it as much as we have.